Aye.
Good evening, everybody. And I would like to call the regular City Commission of August 16th, 2022 to order. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Mayor Betty Resch,
I'm here.
Vice Mayor Christopher McVoy,
Here.
Commissioner Sarah Malika is absent.
Good evening, everybody. And I
Sorry,
would like to-
the feedback. Commissioner Kimberly Stokes,
Here.
Commissioner Ronaldo Diaz.
Here.
Thank you very much. First, we're going to have a moment of silence and invocation by Vice Mayor Christopher McVoy.
I'd like us to take a moment to think about all the members of our community and the situations that they are experiencing. This has been, I think, a difficult time for a lot. Rent, utilities, inflation. And I'd like us just to think of those who may be less fortunate than us and think as a commission how we can help everyone in our community thrive together, particularly those that struggle with wealth. Thank you.
Thank you. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Commissioner Kimberly Stokes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, are there any deletions, additions, or reordering?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we have
Please.
resolution
Go ahead.
58-2022, approving the submission of an application for funding for the replacement playground equipment in the South Palm Park, which was added as consent item F, and resolution number 57-2022, declaring a housing crisis state of emergency in the city of Lake Worth Beach, was added as new business D. Also, the word density was missing at line 139 from ordinance 2022-12 and was added in.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
If I may,
Sure.
Both Commissioner Stokes and Vice Mayor McBoy have additional deletions reordered.
Okay, well, hold on one second. Let's go in order. And I just wanted to point out the 57-2022 about the which one is that?
The declaration of a housing crisis.
Okay, this commission has discussed, and there was consensus previously to have this come on. So it's an add-on, but it's not unanticipated. And
it's going to be my comment. If we could please move that up to item A, so that could be heard first under new business. We have a lot of people in the chambers interested in that item.
okay, okay, that was new business. Not what number was it?
That was new business D, and I was requesting that we reorder it so that it can be new business A.
Okay, are they any objections to that?
Nope, I was going to propose the same. I have an additional one, but
Okay, let's do one at a time.
okay,
Is it connected to it?
not directly, no.
Okay, so we're gonna make, if with consensus to make D A, so that'll be first, because I know there's a lot of public interest, about that. I appreciate that, Ms. Commissioner Stokes. And then Commissioner McVoy, what did you want to do?
I don't know whether it's a reordering. I'm not quite sure about the procedure. The attorney can probably straighten us out on that.
Sure.
But we have in the public hearing, there it is on the back, public hearing portion, 3 ordinances, 12, 13, and 14. And I want to make it very clear that I'm very supportive of them. However, they have a lot of detail and they have a lot of implications for our community and the future. And I don't think we're quite ready as a community to approve them at this point. I would like us to table them for 2 weeks to allow more interaction, both between commissioners and staff and knowledgeable and informed people or interested people in the community who have some details. Again,
Okay.
I want to make it very clear. I support all 3 strongly, but they're so important that I think we want to make sure we get them right.
Okay, just for clarifications, and this table is moving, I apologize. Just for clarification, so that I don't read or unread anything into it. You are talking about, it's very number 15%, 18%, all that stuff. It's very number intensive, and I realize that. I noticed that myself. So
There's a-
are you I'm sorry.
There's a lot of detail, yes,
Okay.
and it's important detail.
Okay, now my other question is, this is the second reading. I mean, we probably could have talked about this at the first reading if that was a concern.
That is all the situation. It's been my experience over the years that what happens is, and it's one of the reasons why it's great that somebody came up with first, second readings. People don't notice it on the first one, and then they go, oh my goodness. And we start getting calls and input and details and so on for the second one. Is it?
Okay,
No, it's not.
I understand. I mean, that's fine. I have a question for Mr. Waters. It's my understanding that this is not a time-sensitive sort of ordinance, correct?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. William Waters, Community Sustainability Director. They are not necessarily time sensitive. However, they have been advertised for second reading, and you made a vote at the first reading to have the second reading and public hearing on this date. So for legal purposes, I believe you will have to open up each item and postpone it to a date certain in the future, and then you'd be fine. Otherwise, we have to start the whole process over with first reading before you.
Yeah, we
Okay.
certainly.
And just out of curiosity, so we'd have to re-advertise it as well?
Yes, ma'am.
How much does that cost? I'm not critical, I'm just curious.
A few $100s, depending on how we advertise it.
Oh, okay, I thought it was 150 or something. Okay, well, Commissioner Stokes, Commissioner Diaz, what say you?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that because I know, the first reading, it's a lot to take in, and then in between then and other things that came up, like even our workshop yesterday, it kind of sparked some ideas about what we can do. I'm very supportive of the three ordinances. I think they're definitely a move in the right direction. But to kind of provide an example, there's like 100 people in this room right now. Obviously, a priority issue in the city is affordable housing. And one of the things that I thought about when reading through some of these ordinances that are collecting fees from developers and fines or whatnot, whatever you want to call them, that's got me thinking, why don't we discuss, and we could discuss this later, but like, why don't we discuss the potential to have an affordable housing fund that those can all go into? And it's nothing against the ordinances.
Okay, so what I'm here, and I don't mean to interrupt, but what I'm hearing you say, Commissioner Diaz, is that it's not just give people 2 more weeks or another month to look at it and ask questions, but to actually rethink some of the premises of the ordinance itself.
I wouldn't say rethink, it's more like ironing out language, if you will, because it's already kind of in there. And I think the language could be a little bit stronger in some of the things that are being described. But
Okay, and Commissioner Stokes, I'm sorry, I can't see your lights.
Oh, yeah. So I'm happy to put them off when you're able to be here in person, maybe Commissioner Miller gets back from vacation. And we can refine those different ordinances. And, we do have a pretty big item under new business tonight, but regardless of what we do there, it seems to me like we are going to vote to add the 2 items, the one on the consent agenda, new business D, which will also now become new business A, and push those other
Right.
resolutions down. And then we were not changing the agenda with regards to the public hearings at this time.
Well, we have to, this ordinance, if we don't do the second reading, we have to redo the,
Table them to state certain, close them, and move on with the meeting. But it doesn't have anything to do with our reorganizing of the agenda right now.
I had a feeling that I didn't know the proper procedure.
right. So, and thank you, Mr. Waters, for helping us out. Okay, so what I'm going to suggest though is, because there's so much on our plate all the time, is should we talk about then having, I hate to say it, a conversation, however that takes place, about the changes, if there are, and I'm sure there are public, and we're going to hear it tonight, some of the comments from the public about their concerns, their pros, their cons. Should we have some sort of formal conversation then about what changes, or how do you want to handle it from there? I guess, Mr. Attorney, could you help us out in terms of a procedure, maybe?
Well, if you're going to postpone it to second reading, then folks make their comments then. If at the time of those 3 items, if there are members of the audience that put in cards and you decide you want to hear public comment, you can hear public comment. What I'm hearing, though, is there might be such significant changes that it may not be second reading. We may have first all over again, but that's to be determined. I don't know what's in everybody's minds in terms of these different changes, but it sounds like everybody likes the concept, but the details, I think to quote Commissioner Diaz, need to be ironed out.
Exactly. So could it, if we table it, do we have to table it to a date certain?
Yes, that would be suggested. And I'm looking at the calendar and I think September 6th is probably your next
Does
event.
does that give the commission enough time to gather and churn and talk about, if we bring it back as a done deal on September 2nd, I don't think that gives us enough time to do what I'm hearing people want to do without some sort of formal conversation about what the interest is and what their concerns and pros are. So could we just remove it from the agenda? I forget Robert's Rules of Order.
As William suggested, I think you do move it to a date certain. And then if at that date certain, you decide that you're making substantial changes, we'll just have to kind of start over again.
And
But
spend another few $100s on, every dollar counts. So we would have to spend another few $100s to, what if we reordered it to like time at, out a little outside, after like September, October, because it's already August, to give us enough time, because I'm afraid we're going to be in the same situation, because I think it sounds like there's some chat, some conversations that need to take place. We're going to be talking about but different budget items. So what if we said, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, Carmen.
If I can say, I know William wanted to interject. We were talking about the time frame to bring it back. We certainly want a time frame in which William, Mr. Waters will be able to have opportunity with each commissioner to go over the questions and items they would like to flesh out in the details.
Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking. So
Time.
even if we went into when is the budget process over? When do we finally vote on?
What's happening September 20th?
Okay, so if and we've got a lot of work to do on the budget. So September 20th, second meeting in October, do you think? Could that work, people?
I would be inclined not to push it out overly. I think as long as there's time for us individually to meet with William, possibly bringing members of the community that have some input into it, or get that communicated to William and
Well, that's my concern. If there are people from the community that want input, I think maybe
I feel comfortable with the third Tuesday in September. I do
I
think
would
the
also.
first Tuesday in September is rushed because we have to have it ironed out and enough time to put it on the backup and get it out there. But I think we should all plan on meeting with William in the next 2 weeks. And then that should give us enough time to have it up and ready to go by the third Tuesday in September.
okay, that's fine. We have a meeting on the 3rd. We have 3 meetings in September. Oh, no. I don't know. I've lost track of time. No, here's my question though. If there are people that, for instance, it sounds like Commissioner and Vice Mayor, that you have specific people that that have concerns and comments that you want to bring into the conversation, which doesn't help Commissioner Diaz, Malega, or myself to know what those people are saying. So if we weren't so swamped, I would say it would be good to have a quick workshop about it so that everybody can hear what the concerns are. I don't want it to be patchwork quilted together, is my point. That's all.
I think we can all, as commissioners and mayor, encourage anybody who does have comments to send them to all of us. And so that I totally agree that we should all be aware of everything. That's the best way to improve the product.
Okay, so if someone if I have someone that wants an input, I will say, I'll have a conversation or say, email everybody with your concerns and we'll all as a courtesy, we'll all do that for each other.
Yep.
Okay. All right, John, I was just worried the communication, because sometimes we get so busy, things get pushed off and, here we are again, but we haven't. So, all right, so.
I think attorney wants to jump.
Yeah, so to avoid sunshine law issues, and avoiding the reply all, maybe all comments go to Mr. Waters and then he can synthesize those and get those out to all the commissioners so that there's reduced risk of unintentional communication among commissioners.
I think
Mr. Waters is willing to do that.
I think also what Mayor was suggesting though is that people who do have comments can CC all of the commissioners. We don't necessarily have to reply all to every single one of them. Of course, we should know that, but
Right.
comments should be directed at commissioners as well.
Yes,
Right.
but be careful about the do not reply. Thank you.
Yeah,
I think we've
and
got.
people will not know to write, do not reply. So we have to be vigilant about that now.
Okay, all right, I have motion to approve the agenda as amended with the 2 additional items and the 1 reordering.
Okay, wait a minute now. Okay. My next question, I have a lot of time to think. My next question is, are there people in the audience that would like to speak about those particular ordinances?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we received a number of cards and still more coming.
About those,
Okay, about that issue,
I would guess not.
No.
No cards regarding the,
I think
that was
that,
my question. If people are here to, if there are people out up there who are specifically there to make a public comment on those ordinances, I would like them, because we're not going to hear it tonight, I want them to either have the maybe have the opportunity to come up then as a non-agenda item.
we're going to open each one of them. I'd like to, if anybody has submitted a public comment on any of them online or anything, I think it should be read into the record. And then at that time, we can postpone to a date certain.
Okay, all right. Sounds like we have a plan. So we have a motion from Commissioner Stokes. Do we have a second?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, Ms. Shayla, I'm going to be looking to you to keep track of me, what I'm doing here, okay?
Not a problem, Madam Mayor. Can I hear who made the second?
Vice Mayor McFord.
Okay, great. Okay, so,
Thank you.
um,
I'm sorry.
no, I'm glad we had a chance. I can't wait to get back up there. Doing this Zoom is not easy. Okay, so presentations. We have a presentation by Gloria Cox, who's the director of the National Fitness Campaign, Public Art, regarding a public art outdoor fitness court. Ms. Cox came to me last year, a long time ago, with this is a company that does this service and provides this product. And with our art background and our interest in health, I thought it would certainly behoove us to give Ms. Cox a chance to tell her what her company does. And she's been waiting months and months to get on this agenda. So thank you very much for your presence here, your time here. I'm going to go mute.
Of course. Thank you so much, Madam Mayor and Vice Mayor and Commissioners, for giving me a few minutes of your time this evening. My name is Gloria, as the Mayor implied, and I am the Director of the Public Art Campaign at National Fitness Campaign. If you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen with you and run through a quick presentation, which will detail what we do at National Fitness Campaign and how we feel like there could be some alignment with you folks there in Lake Worth Beach. If you can start to see this change, just let me know. Hopefully this is showing up okay. Do you guys see a picture of Keith Haring and Jean-Michel Basquiat?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so we are thrilled to have the conversation with you. We work with two world-renowned artists and feature their art on our outdoor fitness court. It is an outdoor gym, if you will, that is free to the community once it's installed. And it is a public art project. So it's an interactive work of art once it's in place. These are very exclusive. We only do 10 of these per artist per year. We do have a couple of folks in Florida who are going to be launching their featured artist fitness courts. One in Deerfield Beach will feature the work of Jean-Michel Basquiat. We have another in Fort Myers that will feature the work of Keith Haring. So I'd love to just share some of the details around that. We are a consulting firm out of San Francisco. We work with communities to really change health outcomes. We want to build healthier communities across the country. And we do that by changing the built environment with the fitness court and making it available to everyone, regardless of whether they can afford to go to a gym or what their life might look like. We try to plug this thing into a park or near a trail so it's accessible to as many people as possible. And we really want to impact those health outcomes. We've been doing this for a long time, started back in 1979 with just these wooden metal fitness court. And the campaign has grown over the years, really to become a modern work of art, the fitness court itself. And we are welcoming our 500th community to the campaign with the new fitness court this year. And we probably have this thing scaled to reach about 10,000 folks in the next decade. So our mission is to build healthy communities, as I mentioned. We want to get people out of their cars and moving. We believe if we can make movement a part of people's everyday lives and practice, we really can start to change health outcomes and health disparities. Now, this is a comprehensive community wellness program. It lives on the fitness court. And in National Fitness Campaign, we provide a toolkit of services to our partners to really help plan, fund, and activate the campaign for the community. This is the visual of the fitness court. This is on the Marina Green in San Francisco. It's a 38 by 38 foot space. It is a 7-zone functional fitness training system. It is scalable to adults over the age of 14 of all abilities. Now, as I mentioned, it's meant to be a modern work of art in its own right, but what you can't see here is that on the back side of this engagement wall is a 32-foot mural and that's where we display our public art. We really believe public art makes for healthier communities. It's really great for mental health, all kinds of good aspects to that. We also believe that with these world-renowned artists that we feature, it does act as a draw for tourism to communities that implement this particular project. Now, we do have an app that is free that goes with the fitness court. It's free to download, and it's going to tell you how to use the fitness court, where is the fitness court located in the community. It's also going to have a library of programming based on your goals and ability. So it's like having a coach in the pocket. No matter what your fitness level, you can use the fitness court, whether you're in CrossFit or you're just starting your journey. Now, this is very inclusive. It's ADA accessible. We have fantastic programming for folks of all ages and abilities. So even seniors, we have wonderful programming for stability and mobility on the fitness court. The toolkit of services that we provide, you see a little bit about that here. So we do everything from helping you find a site that makes sense and is really going to have impact for the community. We help you plan the design of the fitness court. We help you build funding for this project. And then we even have a national installation team that can come out and get this thing up and running in about 4 days once the concrete is cured. So it's a very turnkey project. It's a placemaking project for communities. We also train ambassadors. We want to make sure that we train the local rec folks, as well as some other people that you identify in the community as ambassadors for the campaign. It's the people helping people part of this whole thing. And we think that's super important. We've had some communities train their police and fire to be ambassadors, which can give them a different way to interact with the community. We also really highlight this with the local media, social media. We make sure everyone's aware of this and knows where it's located so they can get out there and get their workout in. We keep that app updated with fresh content throughout the year, so it's not going to be just the same stuff. We really help you create a wellness culture that's designed to engage your community. So that's the overview of the fitness court. And now I'm going to jump into a little bit about the art. So we've worked with a lot of communities across the country with local art, as well as our featured world-renowned artists. We would be happy to do that as well, help you commission a local artist who can create a one-of-a-kind work of art. We help that get transferred onto a commercial-grade laminate wrap that is put on the fitness court during installation. Now, these things are made of carbon steel. They're meant to hold up for decades. Everything on here is double powder coated. We've got them on the beach in Florida, as you know. We've got them in the mountains. We've got them all over the country, really. So they're going to hold up extremely well. This is our featured artist for 2021. We still have a few pieces of Keith Haring art left, and they're really fantastic. Of course, Keith Haring was a very important visual language artist out of New York. His fitness courts are just spectacular. We're thrilled to see these come to life across the country. We even were privileged to work with his family in his hometown in Pennsylvania to put one of his fitness courts there. So really fun project for us. As I mentioned, we've got a few of those designs left, but quite a lot of them are off the table at this point. We also are going to be working this year with the work of Jean-Michel Basquiat, who's also a very important artist. He was really portraying the story of the African American in our country through his art. It's very layered. We think it's amazing. It looks incredible on the fitness court. Your neighbors in Deerfield Beach are actually getting this one. That'll be going in this fall. That's Boy and Dog and Johnny Pump, one of my favorites. But we do have about 4 of these left to choose from. And we will be introducing a new artist really soon. But of course, his work is incredibly valuable. It's sold for records at auction. As I mentioned, these are made of carbon steel. We do manufacture right outside of Birmingham, Alabama. So we make them right here. And everything on here is designed to last, including that wrap, which is also anti-graffiti. Now, on these featured artist fitness courts, it's all about the art. Every piece of this fitness court has art on it. You can see it's even on the elements and on that engagement wall. So we also work with those local artists. This is one of my favorites that we did out in Santa Ana, California. So that's another option, of course, for the design of that fitness court. Now, this is what the funding looks like. I'll run through this really quickly. So the fitness court and the artwork and the services that we provide at NFC is $202,350. There's also a concrete slab involved. And then, of course, if you use our national installation team, that's just a partner organization, you don't have to use them. That could be an additional $25,000. We like to give you that all right up front. Now, what you need to understand is this comes together in a lot of different ways. A lot of times with these special works, we see the city provide a space in a park or along a trail and the concrete slab. And then we work to build local funding for this project. So we bring in healthcare organizations, we talk and, build sponsor support. We've seen individual art enthusiasts fully fund these projects in a couple of locations. So there are lots of ways to bring that together. And we do that with you. We don't just say, go find the money. We do presentations and we really help build that sponsor support for the project. Now, this is the local art project. You can see there's obviously reduced funding here. We're not talking about a world-renowned artist, and there is a grant involved with this project. So a little bit less here, but same thing. We really just look for that concrete slab and a good space, and then we can help you with building that funding with some local funding partners. As I mentioned, we've seen it happen a lot of different ways across the country. Now, we do have some folks who've taken advantage of CDBG funding for certain locations. We love to see these help folks in under-resourced areas. This is what it looks like with a sponsor. In Jackson, Mississippi, their local healthcare organization, Jackson Heart, did sponsor this Keith Haring Fitness Court. So we do give them some recognition on the wall of the fitness court, and there's a gallery listing on that inside engagement space for additional sponsors that come on board. So we also help you find a site. As I mentioned, we're happy to pull together some data around pedestrian movement, and we layer on top of that some socioeconomic and infrastructure items like your parks and your trails. We look at population density, equity, and we help you find a site or a couple of sites that might make sense, and then work together to bring that project there. So that's kind of the overview of everything. I know I went through that pretty quickly, but I'd love to give you a chance just to ask a few questions.
I do have one quick question because of, as I look at a picture of Basquiat, one of my favorite artists of all time. I love
Mine
everything
too.
he stands for. So I'm very curious who I'm happy to hear that Keith Haring's family is working with you. Who's holding a license for his artwork? Because I'm very familiar with what he stands for. And it often, when I see his t-shirts being sold at Target, for example, I take issue, let's say, with what his messaging is.
Yes, we have great licensing. We have great agreements in place with ArtStar, which is the organization that represents both of these artists. So yeah, we have an absolutely, legitimate, if you will, relationship with this art and with these artists and their organizations.
Thank you.
Of course.
It looks great. Thank you for showing us this opportunity.
Of course. Well, we're excited for you guys to consider it, and please reach out if there are any questions of any kind. And thank you so much for giving me time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cox. We really do appreciate it. When a long time ago, when she sent me emails about this, I thought, this is, I'm just happy to have the opportunity, and perhaps we can discuss this at some point about our own community. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Bye-bye, you too. Okay, next we have a presentation on Mental Health America's Bell Seal for Workplace Mental Health Gold Status by our own Human Resources. And somebody will come up in just a second.
Madam Mayor, City Commissioners, City Manager. My name is Janie Micheka-Lebowski. I'm the Human Resources Manager for the city. And I'm doing this Bell Seal for Workplace Mental Health presentation on behalf of Jamil Garcia Giron, our HR generalist, who unfortunately could not be here this evening. Bell Seal for Workplace Mental Health is a national certification program to recognize employers committed to creating mentally healthy workplaces. In order to obtain certification, a recipient has to complete a comprehensive 58 criteria application that evaluates organizational policies and practices that improve employee mental health outcomes, including workplace culture, benefits, compliance, and wellness programs. There are 4 recognition levels. There's the bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. And the total of 92 total recipients, 11% of that is from the public sector. The platinum has 6 recipients and gold has 4 recipients. So this is part of our wellness program, and it's something that Jamil has been working on for, a couple of months now. Some of the benefits that support mental health are our EAP program that we, which, provide to our employees, which provides 3 counseling sessions. We're actually looking per year. So 3 counseling sessions per year, per issue for anyone in a household. So it's employee plus household. And the health insurance with at least 50% covered costs by employer, and paid time off, which includes vacation and sick time. So we are looking at actually adding on to make it 6 counseling sessions for EAP per year. The City of Lakewood Beach is proudly certified at gold level for the mental health Bell Seal for Workplace Mental Health. And that's a big accolades to us, by the way. So we were presented with a certificate for that. And, we're very proud of ourselves for getting the gold seal. We were asked by the Mental Health Association to provide a quote, why workplace health is important to our organization, and what receiving the Bell Seal means to the organization as a whole. And one of the things that we mentioned is mental health is important to the organization because it not only affects how we feel and think about, our work environment and our home, but also how we act, starting from our childhood to adulthood, which is why we want to ensure employees understand that they're never alone when they have to cope with any situations that they may have. Some of the program benefits are listed above. There's the recognition via logo inclusion on the Mental Health Association's Bell Seal website and the landing page that they have. Recognition on the Mental Health Association social media platform and national newsletter. So we have City of Lakewood Beach, featuring all there. Recognition during the Mental Health Association annual conference that was held in June. The Bell Seal recipient promotion toolkit for us to use on our social media platforms, our websites. We have the seal on some of our emails. And this has actually helped us quite a bit with our retention and recruitment within the human resources arena. And also access to workplace wellness newsletters. And it's a high impact opportunity to collaborate with the Mental Health Association on projects that promote achievements and solutions. So there's discussions and conference sessions, blog spotlights. The mental health situation is big right now. So there's a lot of, benefits for being one of the social, one of the members for the MHA. And that's all. Any questions?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
The hard work and
Thank you.
the focus on mental health.
Thank you. I give it up to Jamil. She really worked hard for us to
That's
get
wonderful.
Gold Seal. Mhm.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. And I know I've talked with our city manager after some national events happen, knowing how it affects our workers who have to get up in the morning and go collect garbage, like after Buffalo. Just saying, can you please make sure your workers know,
Right.
take care of your mental health? And if our garbage gets delayed a few hours, our garbage gets delayed a few hours.
Right.
We'll get through it because there's a lot going on that everybody's facing right now. And
Yes.
this is really important. So thank you.
Yeah, and the other day I was able to attend the presentation, if you will, that Gary Group did, and having, listening to them, they had a lot of compliments and positive feedback on our HR and the work we're doing, especially specifically in this. So I really appreciate it. Looking forward to making it better.
Yes, the Garing Group has been they've been big in supporting us with a lot of the wellness, just coming up with ideas on what we can do for our employees. So they really helped us as our insurance broker. We cannot say we're really proud of them too.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation and for the hard work that obviously staff has put into this. The staff of the city are the unsung heroes, the people that are doing the work behind the scenes to improve things. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have a presentation by Todd Townsend regarding the beach complex and tourism.
Everybody, let's see everybody here.
On top.
Down, other way.
All right. Okay, so let's do investment spending rather than decadent spending, which has kind of been the case of what's being built up for us right now. I'm really not down with this new policy of policy of allocation. What else? Forget that. I don't want to say all that. So yeah, we want to do investment spending rather than decadent spending. So I'm Todd, 502 South J Street. I'm here to have a proposal that will transform our town into a mostly low-key way, appealing to tourists and locals alike without losing our cool. I propose that we use this extremely unique opportunity, which is our position on the South Florida map, to elevate our countenance in concerning ways. Direct offset with rising utility bills and possibly rent, providing tourists with lifelong precious memories and generating revenue, better regular city financial numbers continuously. Indeed, fresh faces visiting our full gamut of our local businesses. So the opportunity is that we have the platform to create and circulate energy with the following mechanism, and the next slide will start to do that. Next slide. So this is Tiger Woods Pop Stroke Mini Golf right there, and our golf course. So this is, where's my big picture? There's a big picture. So there's the big picture. So this is the trajectory of tourism that all of our decisions should be based on. So now I'll go into the components in detail. The next slide. Next slide. So this is Tiger Woods Pop Stroke Mini Golf. See that green line at the top? That used to be our nature walk, which is 1.5 miles long. I propose that we put that back so that we can see the new mangrove islands being built. Also, it ends at 16th Avenue. 16th Avenue is a direct connection with the ball fields and the Blue Ways water situation that we want to do. So below that are the 3 acres necessary to install the Tiger Woods Pop Stroke Mini Golf. This company has 2 branches. One branch is Tiger Woods Pop Stroke Mini Golf with a restaurant and a store. The second is a lighthouse, palm tree, and a beach themed. And so that's all about the game. That's kind of like, that's more for us. Okay, so director can talk about tourism in Palm Beach County. We've had the director of tourism come in to talk to us about the tourism in Palm Beach County and emphasize that we have golf on the intercoastal. Golf is seen as an elite kind of sport. Let's make golf accessible and immediate for all by using Tiger Woods and Pop Stroke Mini Golf. I've spoken to the PR people and the designer at Tiger Woods Pop Stroke Mini Golf, and they like it if we like it. So we need to send them an invitation. So next is the pool. So this will be the everyone's pool. It's going to be the least expensive with the safest and quickest build. So this is going to be a historically sound ADA certifiable. Here you can see that it has the distance lanes, speed swimming lanes, starting blocks, diving board, and a jumping off island. The rectangular shape is shown as an old, the historic rectangular shape is shown in all the old photographs and postcards. So it features the ADA specifications, which are 6-inch stairs, double entry exit rails, safety rails, sitting bench, and a handicap lift. So bottom line, this city pool covers ADA, teaching, distance and speed swimming, party, and play. Next slide. All right, so here's the casino building that surrounds all of that. This is the pool surrounding the casino building. So between the rotaries, there is now going to be a restricted lane area because nobody wants to sit out there and party and have cars and stuff driving in front of the building and unloading all that good stuff. So let's tie the building in. A1 is a roof deck with new toilets. A2 is a rear deck. A3 is a baby pool and splash pad. A4 is a C-shaped booze. A5 is a transparent wall with an entryway. So that's the front of the pool now. This is where you're going to come in and you'll be able to see through into the pool as you come up to the area. So A6 is a stairway to the parking lot. A7 is a new traffic pattern, which we need, which is going to double as storm surge relief. So we get to 20 storm surge, a lot of the water is going to go down. So the building. All right. So what was that? A7 is traffic pattern. A8 is a public splash pad, which everybody really wants to have, and it's right up at the top up there. You can see we all really want that. So the building addition D1 is a pool, cafe, and wet bar. So, and the second floor is office space for storage and setup. So that B1 there, we want to have the B1 there so that it can serve the pool. And the other side was a wet bar so that serves the grassy area for the parties and stuff. So now you got alcohol too, which I don't really like. So B2 is retractable awnings. B2A is a retractable awning that covers that whole grassy area there. B2 is awnings that surround there. B3 is a staircase that goes from the second floor of the building down to the grassy area. And then B4 is party storage and a freezer room. So the B section fulfills the original intention of this building as an events hall, which will keep its parties dry and safe from the elements. Keep in mind, if we put a big restaurant there, we're going to have big rats that follow it. Next slide. The parking garage. Here is the accessibility solution to the second floor of the casino building, as stated. A 3-level 120-car parking garage with a rooftop solar. I know that we'll have to do some special stuff there because I spoke to Mr. Waters about how to make it reach over into other people's property. It's possible, but who knows? So B is a covered pedestrian walkway that joins the second floor of the garage to the second floor of the building. Would be a reason that building doesn't work. C is an elevator. D is a loading ramp because we don't want loading going on in front of the building while people are partying and hanging out. So now we've got the loading ramp on the back of the building. E is a dumpster house. 7. So here's the big picture. We can see everything that we're trying to do here. But let's go down to the green area, which is our visitor center, which is an attraction, right? So this is an attraction with a constant influx of people in the state of Florida each day. It is up to us as a beach town to give them something to do and somewhere to spend their money. So I propose that we strongly request from the state of Florida to give us the money so that we can finish everything in this green section here. Okay, so the first floor of the visitor center has space for a beach boutique, juice bar, general concessions, a secondary lifeguard station, et cetera, et cetera. The second floor will be a flexible community space because we want a community space, but we want all that other stuff to make us the money so that we can have our community space and do our thing. So you got the sixth floor as a community space with a public community center. Above that is an observation tower with a mezzanine and a rooftop. I've got many examples of this in the backup that I'll be bringing to you. This will be the ultimate place for photo ops, which will create free viral advertisement. So next to that is a grand staircase, which doubles as another storm surge directive and triples as an amphitheater with a small stage. To the left is a gazebo, which will work for a meeting point and provide some needed shade for people. So let's build something public on this highly coveted property so that everyone can enjoy it. Next. Oh, that's what I want. That's where I was right there. So, okay, so now, all right, so the pedestrian bridge. Nobody likes walking across the bridge over to the beach, right? It's not safe. It's not, the cars go flying across there. Not a good idea. I'll do it, but nobody else will. Okay, so the pedestrian bridge is the mechanism to circulate that energy safely, easily, and joyfully from the town to the beach. This bridge connects Bryant Park, Central Triangle, the golf course, and the beach cooperatively. The closing of the distance between the beach and the town is paramount to the success of our project here. So next slide. That's it. So I was involved in an accident recently. I got broken ribs. So I really wasn't able to continue with my work on this project. But the person I am working with is a really good tech, and we're pulling together all of the backup now. Shouldn't be a problem. Just for instance, the pool. So I've just come out of physical therapy myself. I went to a place in Loxahatchee where we had a pool with all the amenities that I just got done talking about. Every one of those physical therapists there were like, of course, we're going to send everybody to your pool when they finish their regimen with us. So there's your day crowd right there. So if it's going to have to show that it's going to make some money, that's one way right there, that we're going to have a lot of people with bad knees, bad backs, bad elbows, bad attitudes coming into the pool. So that's all. So I will have the rest of my information in 2 weeks. And I hope you look closely at this, and it's all recorded, and I'll have a whole booklet of stuff when I see you again in 2 weeks. So thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Todd.
I gotta
Cover
go.
well.
Thank you very much, Todd. Thank you.
You want to go?
Okay, next are commission liaison reports and comments. Let's start with, go backwards tonight. Let's start with Commissioner Diaz.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
Things are going well, but I would take this opportunity to express some displeasure and maybe make a request of our city attorney. Two things are going on right now. At this very moment, the CRA is having their meeting discussing the other top issue in the Lake Worth Beach. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there's two issues. You have the Gulf Stream, the largest redevelopment project in Lake Worth Beach history. We clearly need that. And that's being discussed on one side of town. And then right here in this room, we're going to discuss what I think is the number one priority issue in this town. And that's the affordable housing and having a place where people live. But what I'm getting at is, having the CRA meeting at the same time is, in my opinion, not appropriate. It discourages public participation. I don't know how it happened. It's not a usual night that the CRA really meets. Other things, that needs to be resolved. I know I've expressed my concerns and my displeasure with the potential of missing notice requirements and things like that, administrative things. This is pretty high up on there. I mean, having two of the most important issues being discussed at the same exact time, it's just discouraging public participation. It's not something I am fond of and want to keep happening. Also, they are appointing, I know the CRA is their own organization, but they are appointing a chair, and I have concerns as well as many from the community in terms of why our appointments haven't served their seats yet. And I've had feedback from other appointments and their other boards. They love it. They just love the experience. They love working on the advisory boards. They love working for the city and working on behalf of their community. And our CRA appointees have yet to serve. And whether there's a statutory requirement or whatever, I would like to see that spelled out. And I guess I'm requesting from city attorney if maybe we could have like a memo or something just to kind of briefly describe why they haven't been able to take their seats just yet. Because it is a very valid concern. Others have taken their seats, and just to have that explanation available for people to understand. If I don't know if my fellow commissioners have to agree or if they have any thoughts on that.
Thank you. I was going to pass my my liaison report tonight so we can hear from the public, but I have also requested I just would like an explanation of why it was moved to this date. They've been moving their dates every once in a while. The people who serve on the CRA are giving up one Tuesday a month. They know when they schedule their work. It's consistent. It always happens. This isn't the first time they've moved their meeting. So I'd just like to understand what prompted this rescheduling. Every time we look at our calendar, we try not to schedule meetings on the second Tuesday of the month so that we don't conflict with them. And I'm also curious why the outgoing board is appointing the vice chair for the new board that is going to be working for them. I find that highly unusual that someone representing the board starting next month for the next year will be voted upon by the less than a majority of that board. Like the people serving on the board should have a chance to choose their leadership, not have it chosen by the outgoing. So I'd like to know if there's something in their code or something there that stated it had to be done at this time of the year. So yeah, we have some things to look into there, but I'm going to pass and move on. So I'm really eager to hear from all the people that are in the room today.
Okay, thank you. So that would leave you then, Commissioner McBoy, Vice Mayor McBoy.
Thank you. I have two unrelated issues. The first one has been raised by Commissioner Diaz and Commissioner Stokes. I 100% echo. I was very upset to find out that the CRA had a loaded agenda with their budget, with some number of big issues in the city that was happening at the same time that the city meeting was happening. To me, highly inappropriate. I was even more upset to find out that they scheduled that meeting when two of the members have their terms expire in 5 days. That just doesn't look very good. There's been a vacant position on the CRA board ever since, I don't know how long, but we appointed 3 people. So there were people available to put on that vacant position. Highly inappropriate that somebody would schedule a meeting when a new board is there and ready to go, and other people, 5 days before they terminate. It's just not appropriate. So I echo the request to the city attorney to find out, do either the city or the CRA have any policies as far as having meetings, making sure that they don't overlap. And really, I've had a lot of input from the community, just a very strong unhappiness. The other one is a much more positive one. And before I read that, because it's important. Bienvenido a todos que están aquí por la emergencia de alojamiento. Gracias por venir. Thank you all for coming. We're going to get there. I think it'll be our next item, if I'm not mistaken. Well, almost our next item. We have to get through the ones we tabled. So, unrelated to the housing, but related to our city very much. 3 hours ago, well, 4 hours ago now, President Biden signed into law the Inflation Reduction Act, an amazing piece of legislation passed single-handedly by the Democrats in the House and Senate. There were no Republican votes supporting it, only Democrats. It's passed, it's signed by the president. The article makes available almost $400 billion for energy and climate projects. We are finally, as a country, realizing we have to do something about these things, and we're putting our money where our mouth is. The goal of that is to reduce carbon emissions by 40% by 2030. We're at 2022 right now. That's 8 years away. We can do this, but it's going to take serious work and serious money. That's just been approved. This is the most significant investment that anybody has made on climate change. It's certainly in this country, and I think probably worldwide. And as we've seen recently in Lake Worth, these investments not only benefit our environment, but the more we do on renewable energy, the more stable our electric prices are in this community. So it's the right way to go. The IRA that passed just today is especially significant for Lake Worth Beach because the investment tax credit, which has been a center part of solar policy for probably decades at this point, it used to be limited only to organizations that pay taxes. That's why it's called an investment tax credit. Well, that was fine, but if you were a municipality or a church or a nonprofit and you wanted to do something with renewable energy, you couldn't get a tax credit. That has now been fixed. We as a city are now eligible for the same thing. It comes as a direct payment to our city. This is huge. For example, if our city chose to expand the solar field that we have at the landfill, there's room to about triple to quadruple it. We could now directly contract for that and get up to 60% of that reimbursed from the federal government. That's mind-boggling. We've never been in that situation. This also applies to local battery storage, which is one of the difficulties that is in changing technology that obviously we all know solar panels only produce during the middle of the day or the most of the day, but not at night. Battery storage is growing by leaps and bounds. That would be covered by this funds. Microgrids, if we want to choose to say certain parts of the city, we're going to put them on renewable energy, and they always have power for safety, whether it's the fire station, the police station, maybe a clinic. All of that is now eligible. So I'm asking for consensus from my colleagues for the electric utility to look full speed into what options the IRA gives us to do things with the city and present us some of those options, at least an initial review of that at the August utility.
At the August, okay. It sounds like great stuff. You're obviously the energy person that's deep in this, and thank you for bringing that to our attention. I don't know. I think it would be unfair for us to give them a deadline of the end of the month because that's only like 2 weeks away. So, and I don't know that Mr. Liberty has the opportunity to address that. Whether that would be, are you here?
I'm looking for, no, he's not here. I'm looking for a consensus from my colleagues to go ahead and get this going.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I
Right,
have,
but you had a deadline. You sounded like you had a deadline of August 30th.
Definitely.
I,
Well-
I, I have my criticisms on that policy for sure and what it does for fossil fuel, but I agree. There's I think tremendous potential for us to pursue money and I don't know if I would call it a deadline, but maybe that's like the first thing we should look at to make sure we're not missing out on any opportunities. I think that's kind of what I'm getting the gist of, right? Let's look really closely at this law that just got passed and let's make sure we're not missing any opportunities to start pursuing money and then, work through the details from there.
All right, can I see, oh, go ahead, Commissioner Stokes?
I'm sure he's.
Yeah, I think if you were to text Mr. Liberty right now, our director of our utility company, he probably is already aware of this and like looking into it. This is very exciting news. I received texts from members of the community. It's like showing me the part like municipality owned utilities are eligible for this. It's very exciting news. I think Mr. Liberty would be very excited to give us a quick overview of
Okay.
what we might have learned between now and then. And then we can discuss, the
Okay.
next, but we're not asking him to give us like a detailed, thorough report. But like,
Perfect.
let's jump on this. This is really exciting and big for our city.
Then
And he-
let's, do we have consensus to have Mr. Liberty take a look, come to us on the 30th with his first blush? What's going on?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Ms. Davis, would you take a note of that? That's very exciting. I'm going to pass on my comments. We have I understand there's a room full of people there, so I can't wait to get back in person. I'm getting stronger every day and can't wait to see everybody in the flesh again. City Manager, do you have a report?
Madam, I'm sorry, I just wanted to interject that Sylvina provided me information that the new appointees to the CRA, the terms don't end until August 21st. So that's why the
Okay.
new appointees haven't started as of yet.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Davis, do you have a manager's report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not at this time. I'll yield for the sake of time to hear the comments from our audience concerning a very important issue concerning the housing crisis. I do
Okay.
want to say concerning the information that we would like Mr. Liberty to bring to the commission. We'll definitely, do an overview, but of course it won't be an extensive.
Right.
I'm sure it's a very extensive reading of this very important legislation that just get adopted by the president. And so, but we'll do our best to give some sort of overview as best we can. It'll certainly be very preliminary. So I just want to make sure we're understanding that, but we'll do our best.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Now, I anticipate that we're going to be tabling the 3 ordinances to September, which I think is a little early, but the people that are here, if there are people here that want to speak about that particular item, since it's not really on the agenda, can we let them speak now for the non-agenda items? Is that okay?
I think that's fine. If
Madam
So
Mayor,
now, yep,
in the chambers, I have not received any cards from those who like to speak to those 3 ordinances for the second reading, but we will put out an invitation. Is there anyone in the audience who wish to speak to the items on the public hearings, A, B, or C? Is there any interest in speaking to those ordinances, A, B, and C?
okay. Do you have any blue cards of any type?
I have blue cards speaking to the housing crisis declaration.
But that's an agenda item, so it would come then.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Shayla, Miss Ellis, do you have any cards?
I do. I have one comment from Dan Waleski. He had comments on all 3 portions of the ordinance, and I informed him that I would read as much as I could for 6 minutes.
Okay, so let's start with Miss Ellis and Mr. Waleski's letter.
It's Dan Waleski. It's 607 North K Street. To the city clerk, honorable mayor, vice mayor, and commissioners, I am writing to provide my comments and concerns regarding the 3 ordinances before you today, which would amend the land development regulations for Lake Worth Beach, specifically ordinances 2022-12, 2022-13, and 2022-14. In short, I believe that all 3 ordinances are beneficial for the city But I also believe that it is very important to not rush the passage of these ordinances, but rather to take the time to thoroughly evaluate and consider all ramifications of these changes. I have some major concerns with each of the ordinances and respectfully ask that they be clarified and amended prior to approval. The bullet points are broken out into the 3 ordinances. Thank you for your consideration. In regards to ordinance 20-22-12, and the first comment was in the presentation during the first public hearing of this ordinance, William Waters discussed 2 program tiers, with the first being any project that would like to have additional density or height must include 15% of the overall project units as workforce or affordable. I don't see this clearly articulated within the ordinance, and the term tier does not appear anywhere in the ordinance. The language as I read it only establishes a voluntary program with its own program incentives. If this is not the intent, the wording of the ordinance needs to be clarified. Number 2, also, if the intent is for any project receiving a bonus, either through the existing sustainable program, bonus program, or the existing PUD program to be required to comply with the minimum of 15% workforce/affordable, then it should be clarified. Does this requirement also pertain to a single family home or a single family home with a mother-in-law suite that is utilizing the sustainable bonus for an additional 5% floor area ratio increase? In the presentation, an example was also given with a 3-unit building voluntarily entering the program to gain a 15% bonus in density, which seems consistent with the language of the ordinance. I have no objection to this as it is a voluntary decision. However, if a similar project was intended to utilize the sustainable bonus program and was compelled to participate in the workforce housing program, I believe it will drastically reduce the participation in the sustainable bonus program. My recommendation would be to set a minimum threshold for projects that would be required to participate in this program. Line 75, 76, the calculation for housing expenses consider PMI, available interest rates, and other factors which would preclude a developer from setting a fixed sale price. A mortgage applicant who requires a PMI might not qualify, whereas one who is able to put a sufficient down payment would qualify. The county sets price thresholds for workforce housing and understands that each applicant's ability to secure a mortgage and the costs related are independent of the commitment made by the developer. Unclear how this would work with county down payment assistance, etc. Line 99, this previous provision allows for a 25% reduction in parking. This I would believe would be in addition to the 25% parking applied under mixed use, leading to almost 50% reduction in parking. This needs to be further examined specifically as to how much non-residential is required to be considered mixed use. For ordinance 2022-13, line 70, why require 20 units at 0.75 per micro unit? This equates to a density allowance of 15 standard units. Any project would need to consist of a half acre or more to be able to include these units. This continues to provide benefits only to developers who pursue large aggregation of properties. Is it the city's policy to continue to highly encourage aggregation by denying the same development rights to a small property that are being afforded to larger ones? Line 75, the provision sets a requirement to include mixed use, but no threshold for area of the non-residential use. This is an existing issue with mixed use in the code, whereby a developer can achieve a 25% reduction in parking by setting aside an extremely small footprint to a secondary use. Also, why is it restricted to mixed use and not allowed to multifamily districts? Line 80, this appears to disallow any type of tiny home placement as the micro units must be in multifamily structures. Why? Ordinance 2022-14. This is a lengthy ordinance and I have not been able to make a thorough review to provide all comments. I also don't see that this is an urgent matter to approve, suggest tabling this for at least 30 days to comment. Line 251, section 16 says hard requirements for reduction against industry standards. Is industry standards set by the National Building Code, Florida Building Code, or is it a staff decision to accept the calculation? If Granite Cutting Company wants to move into our industrial area and the equipment is not available to reduce the water by 20% over the rest of the industry, we would block them from building in our city. I would suggest the requirement be automatically met with a Florida Green Building certification, as there is more flexibility and defined review of a certification process. My time is up. I will forward the email to the commission for your further review.
That was, okay, if he wasn't going to, I would hope that you would, because there's a lot in there. Obviously, Mr. Waliski has taken a great deal of time and effort into that.
I did not read all of them, so.
No, that's great. I appreciate it. I'm glad, of course, that we've already discussed. And that sort of props my idea that maybe we should have more than a little time to do this. Okay, do you have any other blue cards, Ms. Ellis?
Not for any other non-agenda item.
For non-agenda, okay.
Mayor,
Yeah, hi.
I do want to say for the record, Commissioner Maliga, of course, is not present as she is out of the country, but she did request that I read her statement that she is in support of the three ordinances, Ordinance 2022-12, Ordinance 2022-13, and Ordinance 2022-14.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think it is a very complicated thing, and I just hope we give ourselves enough time with when we next vote. Now we're going to soon vote to table it to a specific time. I hope we give staff enough time to do that. So are there any non-agenda items, comment cards for non-agenda items? Any others?
None in the chambers.
Okay, and not in the clerk's office. All right, so then let's move on to the approval of minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
A second?
Oh, second.
Okay, now we're at the consent agenda where I need a little guidance because we have added.
We probably need to vote on the approval of the minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I apologize. Let's vote on the minutes. All
Aye.
in favor? Okay, great. Thank you. So now we have the consent agenda, which we've approved. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Okay, now we're getting to the three ordinances that have been the subject of this conversation. And I think pursuant to our attorney, we should take them one by one. So we're looking at ordinance number 2022-12, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm on the same page as everybody. So is there a motion?
Do you need to read it?
Motion to
And
table.
to be safe, I'll just read it into the record.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Ordinance number 2022-12, an ordinance of the city of Lake Worth Beach, Florida, amending chapter 23 land development regulations, article 1 general provisions, division 2 definitions, section 23.1-12 definitions, adding a new definition, annual gross household income, gross rent and overall housing expense, and article 2 administration, division 3 permits, adding a new section 23.2-39 affordable/workforce housing program, providing for an affordable workforce housing program within the city of Lake Worth Beach, providing for severability, confiscation, and an effective date.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Motion to table till the second Tuesday. Tuesday, what? Sorry.
September 20th?
I'm being corrected here. Thank you. Third Tuesday in September, second meeting is what I meant, but third Tuesday, which I believe is September
20th.
20th.
Okay, I would ask staff, I would ask Mr. Waters if that is, do you think he's going to have enough time to do that?
Well, a lot of what has been brought up is actually in the ordinances, and there have been some amendments that we haven't since your last meeting. And there's another component to the affordable housing program that we can add in that addresses at least 5 of the things I heard the person mention. And there are reasons for the other things that have not been included yet because we're creeping into mini like micro houses. Let's see how micro units go for apartments. And then we can look at tiny houses, which will be a separate, entirely different ordinance. And so I think by the 20th, we can definitely allay a lot of the city's citizens' concerns and also meet with all of you and explain what all they mean.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So do I have a second?
Yep, second by Stokes.
Second by Stokes, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Ordinance 2022-13, Mr. Attorney, would you read it, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, ordinance number 2022-13 is an ordinance of the city of Lake Worth Beach, Florida, amending chapter 23 land development regulations, article 1 general provisions, division 2 definitions, section 23.1-12 definitions, adding a new definition micro unit, and article 4 development standards, adding a new section 23.4-25 micro units, providing for development standards for micro units and private severability, conflicts, codification, and an effective date.
Thank you very much. I have the same question for Mr. Waters in terms of time frame. Is the same date okay with you on this one as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion?
I just want to say thanks for bringing that up, Mr. Waters, the tiny homes, because that was pretty much exactly my thought and what I meant by these three ordinances. Probably don't need a drastic change from what they are, but I would love to see some sort of like companion thing for tiny homes and small poverty. So thanks for bringing that up. So that's pretty much exactly what I was thinking.
Well, why that's not here is that the tiny home would probably entail a comprehensive plan
Yeah.
amendment change,
Yeah,
and this does not require that.
Right.
So it's going to need to be separate or bifurcated.
exactly.
Okay, great. Thank you. So do I have a motion?
Go, take them all.
Okay, motion to move to table till September 20.
Second.
Second. Okay, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Attorney, you're up on 2022-14.
All right. Ordinance number 2022-14 is an ordinance of the city of Lake Worth Beach, Florida, amending chapter 23 land development regulations, article 1 general provisions, division 2 definitions, section 23.1-12 definitions, adding thereto new definitions, social justice and sustainability, and article 2 administration, division 3 permits, section 23.2-31 site design qualitative standards, providing for standards for buildings and providing for severability, conflicts, codification, and an effective date.
Thank you very much. Mr. Waters, same question to time frame, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
No, table.
No.
You asked for a motion. Already made one.
Any motion? Do I have a motion?
Motion to postpone to the third Tuesday.
Okay, table to the second meeting in September.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you very much. All right, now we're on new business, and I believe new business D has become new business A, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, and again, I'm not there, so it's hard to read the room. The public input that we have is regarding the resolution that we're going to be discussing.
Yes.
Okay, so, and there are quite a few people there, I take it?
Yep.
Correct. A full house.
Full house, all right. So, do we have a, Mr. Tresivia or somebody give us a little background on this, little staff update?
Sure. The city commission has been very proactive in the attempts to control rent increases. You passed an ordinance a few months ago, entered into a contract with legal aid to provide assistance to tenants. And this is another step in providing assistance to our community. In this effort, you're declaring a housing crisis and then directing that a study be undertaken to take whatever appropriate steps come out of that study, up to and including potentially a rent control ordinance, which we all know is a big undertaking.
Yeah. Do we have an idea from staff, how, just out of curiosity, how much that study is going to cost?
I don't think we do, Carmen.
No, we don't at this time, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this declaration is allowing staff to explore many options, including the option of the study and the costs and all involved in it.
And
Thank you. Oops,
I
thank you.
would,
That answers my question.
well, semi-answered another one. We just this afternoon, I believe, received an email from a professor at FIU, I believe it was. It wasn't clear to me whether he was volunteering to do it for free, but he was certainly volunteering to, I believe he's professor of sociology, said that he would have the expertise to do it and is a Lake Worth resident. So,
Well,
right.
that's
And-
great.
I think we've brought up in a past pre-agenda meeting and elsewhere, we've talked about this so much, and I'm excited to potentially bring it forward finally, because I think one of the things I brought up, and I think it was you, Glenn, that brought up, maybe we could even look at whether the county or somebody nearby potentially already has somewhat big picture that we can kind of maybe piggyback
Yes.
on. So
Yeah.
maybe that's that. Yeah.
Okay, and you know, if we have to hire, I assume there's a process, if we do have to hire someone to do this study, if that's what we come up with, there's a process that the city would have to follow to hire someone to do that, I'm thinking, but that's for another day. So,
And I would imagine similarly to when we were choosing the third-party counsel, all of our attorney met individually with all of the commissioners to find out what we want and to give us the resume of the different options. So I imagine that as we're choosing who's going to do this study for us, you'll seek input from each of us on what qualifications we think are important. And it'll be a continuous conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
thank you.
If I might interject, Suzanne Cabrera oversaw the county's housing evaluation, which took several years. I think it was published about a year and a half ago. And likely we'll be bringing back to you a menu of things to look at. And it may not necessarily be the same consultant who can actually provide the feedback and information that you want. And you could probably get a price point for each type of menu item, and you can select what you want to look at or not. But the
Great.
county's study was actually very comprehensive, and it's where the county's facing its 7,000 unit shortage every year.
Yeah.
And so we can definitely get you a copy of that.
Awesome.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. So in terms of procedure, do we want to do a motion, a second, and then have public comment from the audience, from the house?
Sure. Motion to approve.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so now we're gonna public comment. If whatever cards you got now, I'm just gonna sit back and listen like the rest of us.
Okay, well, we'll start in the chambers. Madam Clerk, do you have any cards?
I do.
Okay, well, we'll start in the chambers since we have these wonderful people waiting very patiently.
Do we, I know we usually go in order, but do we want to see if there's any people here with small children and we can bring them up first?
Good idea.
Okay, so there's interest of those with small children.
Si hay gente con niños pequeños que quieren hablar, que ellos vienen primero. Okay.
So if you're interested, if you have small children, you would like to come forward first, please feel free to come to the podium and just tell me your name.
And address, please.
Maybe not. Okay.
Okay, well, we'll go and order the cards. We have,
Okay, great.
come on. Just come to the podium, tell me your name and your address, please.
Y cuando lleguen, que dicen su nombre y su dirección. por favor.
Oh.
Buenas tardes a todos los presentes, en especial a ellos. Estamos aquí. Bueno, yo vivo en la 3810 Dagües Avenida y el dueño de la renta ya nos dijo que a partir del otro mes vamos a pagar $400 más y eso no queremos porque los niños están pequeños y el saldo es muy bajo, pagan muy barato así en la construcción, en el campo y no da. Entonces, por eso estamos aquí. Yo tengo 4 hijos y muchas gracias solamente.
Okay, I'm gonna ask a question right here. I'm gonna ask, is there someone in the audience that can translate?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that would be more appropriate than having one of us do that. Thank you. And I'm hoping that they'll volunteer to help us out here.
Yep.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah,
My apologies. I was, so I must have not gotten everything that she said, but she was just saying her address, that she is a resident of Lake Worth and that she has 4 small children and cannot afford to house them anymore with the price of her current rent,
400.
which is $400 and it's gone up $400. Thank you.
and her name?
Yeah, she is a farm worker. ¿Tu nombre? Yendi Vázquez was her name.
And her address.
¿Y tu dirección, Yendi? 38, 10 Southwest Avenue. Southwest Avenue. We might have to get that in writing, her address.
I don't think I have a problem.
Okay, I'll get her address. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Those who have children first, if you like to come and speak, you can take this opportunity. Just tell me your name and your address, please.
Empieza con tu nombre y con tu dirección, please.
Hola, buenas noches a cada uno. Dios me los bendiga. Mi nombre es María Ordóñez. Mi dirección es 308 Norte de Lakewood. Bueno, yo tengo un problema en mi renta. Es por el aire. Y al llamar al dueño de la renta nos dice, ¿qué están haciendo al aire? Y si hay que arreglarlo, corre por la cuenta de ustedes. Y al llamar al electricista, dice, son $300. Entonces yo le llamo al dueño de la renta, ¿qué vamos a hacer con esto? Nosotros lo vamos a pagar, pero al momento de pagar la renta, le descontamos no. Entonces es algo que yo vengo pues a concientizar a los dueños y para eso estamos aquí en nuestra lucha, ¿verdad? Y si nosotros abandonamos esa renta, nos vamos, es fácil, podemos irnos, pero ¿dónde podemos conseguir otra renta así tan rápido? Ahorita que las rentas están muy elevadas. ¿Y cuánto estamos ganando los que trabajamos en el campo? Muy poco. Y ahorita no nos dan muchas horas en el campo, solo nos dan 4 horas. ¿Y cuánto realmente podemos sacar para hacer gastos extras? Entonces, cuestiona mucho, señores. Entonces, yo creo que es el momento de despertar, dialogar y concientizar a las autoridades para que piensen un poco. Es cierto que nosotros venimos aquí a trabajar, pero no podemos hacer mayor cosa. Hay trabajos en donde nos explotan para poder conseguir lo suficiente. Entonces, llamo a la conciencia nada más. Y yo creo que hay muchas necesidades en nuestra comunidad y la cual no sabemos dónde ir a pedir ayuda, dónde ir a gritar, ¿verdad? No sabemos. Entonces, por lo tanto, yo vengo aquí a suplicar, pues, sin tomar conciencia de parte de ustedes, podemos hacer algo. Gracias.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Maria Ordóñez, and I am a resident of Lake Worth. I will get you the address. We are having an issue right now in my rent with the air conditioning. I asked my landlord to please fix it. He said it had to come out of my own pocket. So I called an electrician to come fix it for me, and he is charging me $300. And when I call my landlord, I can easily say I'm taking it off the rent, but that's not allowed. So what am I supposed to do? I can't afford that. I would have to abandon my rent. That would be very easy to just get up and leave. But where am I supposed to go with my family? The rents are way too elevated right now, and we can't afford another rent. And in my job as a farm worker, we make very little, and we make very little hours. We work very little hours. There's not enough work. And I am from the migrant workforce. I am part of the workforce here in this community, but I can't afford to survive here. So I am asking you, our local government officials, it's time to listen, to speak up and speak out against what's happening for our families. We are being displaced and we are being exploited, and it's unfair to the people. Thank you very much for giving me the floor.
Can we get the address, please? Can we get the address of that lady, please?
Oh, Maria
Ordóñez.
308 Northeast Street.
Okay,
Thanks,
308.
Mary. Madam Translator, it might be helpful if you just, when they say their name and address, do that and then have just get that established so you don't, might be helpful. Thank you.
Después de tu nombre y tu dirección, yo voy a pasar para dar su casa.
Buenas noches a todos. Pues es un gusto estar participando aquí con ustedes. Yo vengo en representación de una comunidad, Robert Line. Son como 38 comunidades que nos han subido la renta de $500. de hoy a mañana nos suben la renta, el que no quiera pagar la renta, le están diciendo que se salga. Entonces, por medio, en nombre de toda la gente, tenemos como una pequeña directiva. ¿Puede traducir?
Claro que sí. ¿Me dices su nombre y su dirección?
Aurora Lopez, 4823 32 Drive, Roseland.
My name is Aurora Lopez and my address is 4823. 4823. ¿El resto de la dirección?
Lakewood, 4823 32 Drive.
32nd Drive, Lakewood, Florida. And it is my pleasure to be here with you all today. I am a resident from a community with about 38 households in the apartment building. And our issue that we're having is that they are increasing our rent $500 from one day to another. We just can't afford to live there. If we wish not to pay the increase of rent, we all have to move out. But where would we go today? It's 38 families that are trying to fight this issue, and we cannot afford to pay the rent increase.
Pues estamos aquí en esta tarde, pues haciendo un llamado, ustedes como representantes, nosotros como, pues podemos decir que a unos tenemos estatus migratorio legal y otros no, pues podríamos exigir que no se nos discrimine, porque somos seres humanos, vamos errantes en el mundo, las fronteras se hicieron para los países, y los seres humanos podemos ir donde quiera, y pues estamos muy agradecidos con esta gran nación que nos ha acogido, pero quisiéramos un poquito de apoyo en estos momentos de dificultad con toda la comunidad. Habemos mucha gente que está sufriendo eso, que tiene niños, que los apartamentos no sirven, y pues tal vez hacen eso porque pues muchos de nosotros no tenemos voz ni voto, no podemos exigir más de lo que podemos dar, pero pues tal vez tenemos un derecho y todos somos hijos de Dios, todos vamos por el camino y al final la vida es una. Y pues muchas gracias y feliz noche.
I'm here to make a call. I'm here to make a call to action to all you sitting here in front of us. Some of us have legal status and some of us are undocumented, but the situations that we are living in are uninhabitable. I don't know if it's because we are being discriminated because of our legal status. They know we don't have a right to vote and they know we don't have a right to speak up. We have no voice, but I'm here to ask of you that you listen today because borders are for countries, not for people. And we live in a great nation that has accepted us and allowed us to be here, but the situation is not sufficient for us right now. So I'm here to ask all of you here, our local government, to please listen to our needs and treat us with respect.
Hola, buenas noches. Mi nombre es Yajaira Vargas y estoy estoy hablando a favor de todo, no solo de Lakewood, de West Palm Beach, de toda la comunidad de West Palm Beach. Tengo un problema porque el señor rentero me subió la renta de una noche a la mañana y me dijo que si no quería que me salga. Yo soy una madre de 3 hijos, estoy embarazada y la verdad yo creo que ese aumento es demasiado. Son $300 lo que me aumentó y esto me ha llevado a depresión. Está bien. Disculpe, la verdad que me siento mal.
I'll translate while she takes a moment.
He ido 2 veces al hospital. Me siento brutal.
Okay. Hi, my name is Jahaira, and I am here today to speak not just on behalf of Lake Worth residents, but really on behalf of every resident in Palm Beach County with everything that's happening. My rent increased from one night to the other, $300, and I am a single mother of 3. I'm currently pregnant, and this has not just led me to be stressed, but it really has led me to depression. I have hospital bills to pay and I am on food stamps.
Me siento frustrada porque demasiado, esto me lleva como demasiado estrés porque tengo que salir ya en septiembre, se me termina el contrato y el señor me dijo, tiene que salir o vete. Y las rentas están, ¿me entiendes? No sé qué hacer, me siento demasiado frustrada, no sé qué hacer.
I feel really frustrated and powerless because I have to leave by the beginning of September and it's where am I supposed to go with the rent increase? I can't find another place and I'm just feeling very overwhelmed. My landlord has just told me that it's either if I don't like it, I could just leave, but where am I supposed to go?
Quiero que me disculpen, la verdad, esta situación. Esto es para todo, la verdad es frustrante, es horrible lo que estamos pasando. Y como madre, en el estado que estoy, me siento con mucha depresión por lo que está pasando, porque no sé qué va a pasar con mi familia. Mi esposo trabaja, no gana demasiadas cantidades para pagar esa cantidad que están cobrando ahora los renteros. Es mucho y es lamentable lo que está pasando. En mi situación, yo me siento bien frustrada. Perdonen, disculpen y pasen buenas noches.
Please forgive me for this reaction, but as a mother, I feel very frustrated. And even though my husband does work, he makes very little to support our rent and to maintain it. So I think about the situation and I feel very desperate. I don't know as a mom what's going to happen next, and that makes me feel very impotent. So please forgive me, but thank you for giving me the floor.
Are there other speakers with children who like to step up and speak at this time?
¿Alguna otra persona que tenga hijos chiquitos que quisiera hablar en este momento?
No? Okay, I will go down. Wonderful. Come on up.
Bueno, hola, buenas noches a todos los que están presentes acá. Creo que ya lo escucharon todo lo que dijeron las personas, pero yo también quiero decir que es muy frustrante lo que está pasando en la comunidad. Aquí yo sé que llegó poquita persona, pero yo soy un líder en mi comunidad y estoy viendo mucha gente está frustrado porque no puede pagar la renta. De hecho, a mí también me está pasando con mi familia, a mi hermana lo están sacando, pero le dijeron que no tenían el dinero para pagar la renta y se quedaron en esa renta y el dueño de la renta lo está cobrando 300 más por quedarse. Entonces, ahorita tenemos que alzar la voz como todos los que están sentados ahí. Ojalá que luchan por nosotras. Tal vez nosotros no tenemos una persona grande de nuestra comunidad que es que habla algún dialecto o algo, pero ahora queremos alzar la voz para que así los dueños de la renta no abusan de nosotros, no nos cobran mucho la renta, una renta accesible. Y hay muchas familias que tienen 4 hijos. Yo también soy mamá de 4 niños. Y trabajamos en el campo, ganamos bien poquito y todavía tenemos que pagar para que alguien lleve a nuestros hijos en la escuela y tenemos que pagar cuidado de nuestros hijos en la raitera. Tenemos que pagar eso. Entonces, ¿dónde queda el dinero para poder rentar accesiblemente? No tenemos ese dinero. Pero es hora que alguien haga algo por nosotras. Yo sé que muchos dijeron, nosotros somos seres humanos, este país es de oportunidades para nuestros hijos, tenemos que luchar. Por eso estamos aquí. Ok, yo sé que no dije mi nombre es Olga Pérez, mi dirección es 1230 Surce Street, Lake Worth. Gracias.
If we could have the name and address, please.
I have it, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening tonight. I am here as a community leader. I know that a lot of the community members couldn't make it tonight, but I am here because I'm very frustrated like the rest of our community. I am a mom of 4 kids. I know a lot of my colleagues mentioned that, but I live in a situation where my sister, a lot of us can't afford rent, and my sister overnight had an increase of $300 by her landlord, and they are telling her that if she doesn't like it, she can move, but we can't afford to pay that. We are the migrant workforce. I am a farm worker. We make very little, and we are here fighting for this community, but it's time for you, our local government, to stand up and fight for us. We may not have a representative of our own culture sitting here that speaks the indigenous languages, but you have a voice to fight for us. As a mom, it's very frustrating because I too have to pay for my childcare. I too have to pay somebody to take my children because I am at work. And it's time for a call to action from you all, the people sitting here in power, to listen to what we're saying. We, as many people have said, are human beings, and we deserve the respect from you all sitting here tonight. And we deserve somebody to fight for us, get up and fight for us. So thank you. Her name is Mugo Perez.
Any parents who would like to come up and speak?
¿Algún otro padre que quisiera venir a hacer un comentario?
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Vidal Domínguez. Yo vivo en 3574 Kiwanis Road, Lakeport, Florida. Sí, yo también, al igual que todos, me toca renovar contrato en diciembre. Yo llevo 7 años de vivir en el mismo lugar. El año pasado renové contrato, cada año se renueva contrato. Me aumentaron nada más $100, pero esta vez me quieren aumentar $600. Yo también tengo 5 hijos y en este momento yo hace 2 años y medio que tuve un accidente de trabajo. Estoy nomás con una ayuda de Workers' Comp porque me rompí mi mano. No estoy trabajando nada por ahora. Mi esposa está trabajando medio tiempo y entonces yo pienso que vine acá también para, como dicen, para que si pueden ayudarlo a uno, ¿no? Porque que concienticen un poco, porque siento que $600 de uno solo así, como que siento que es mucho. Entonces, para pues a ver qué se puede hacer, porque yo pienso que sí, eso ya es un abuso, ¿no? Imagínense, $600 de aumento de una sola renta, pues yo pienso que es mucho y pues nada más, como dicen, que escuchen pues así como ustedes que tal vez le pueden ayudar a uno, entonces a ver qué se puede solucionar. Y gracias por escucharnos.
Good evening. My name is Vidal Rodriguez, and I have been residing in Lake Worth for many years. In my current address for the past 7 years, I too have to face the decision of moving for my rent. In previous years, they have increased it $100 or so, but this time they're asking for an increase of $600. And I am here to ask you, like a lot of the other community members have asked, that you are conscious about what's happening and that you listen to what we're saying, because I think that $600 is a bit too much for an increase in one time. So I'm here because you all might have the power to do something about what we are seeing and to help us residents here. I thank you for your time.
Okay, I'll start from the cards that I have. I have Michael Moore, aka Sugar Bear.
Perfect. English.
He's gonna hang it on my mic.
I'm Sugar Bear, Minister of Information for the Lake Worth Catholic Worker, Sugar Bear Comics. I live at 626 South K Street, Apartment 2. I'm 66 and a paraplegic in a wheelchair and have been living in Lake Worth since 1980 due to the previously affordable rent. On June 1st of this year, my rent went up from $1,000 a month to $1,500 a month. I make $14.77 a month from SSDI. You don't have to be a math major to realize that I start every month $23 in the red before I even start thinking about paying for electricity, car insurance, gas, phone bill, healthcare costs, food, etc. Through the grace of God, I was able to get a part-time job to make up the difference. But what about the thousands of elderly women who are in their late 80s, early 90s, suffering from ill health and unable to work? What about the thousands of single mothers already working 2 to 3 jobs to make ends meet? And what about the tens of thousands of working poor, backbone of America, the salt of the earth, who have been living paycheck to paycheck for decades before this mental travesty hit the streets? Are we that afraid of socialism that we neglect common sense social safety nets in the form of rent control to ensure that the common good comes before the rich getting richer and the capitalists have an available field day in their insatiable quest to put profits before people? If I sound like a Catholic worker, it's because I am. Thank you.
Next, we have Lindsay McElroy.
Hi, everybody. I'm not a Lake Worth native, but can you hear me all right? But I have been involved serving the Guatemalan Maya community in Lake Worth Beach for the past 8 years since I was 16 years old. For many years, we've seen our family struggling. Father Frank really started this work in the 60s, marching with Cesar Chavez. And since then, the families we serve have struggled. But this year has been unprecedented. We have not only been serving immigrants from over 28 different countries as we typically do, but many Americans have been coming to our doors, U.S. citizens, because they've been put out on the street. Guatemalan woman actually saw a family in the parking lot of Walmart, an American family who's actually, the mother is here today, sleeping in their van, 8 of them, because they were put out on the streets and they couldn't find affordable rents. Every single day, the center has been having to evolve to become a temporary housing solution when we are just meant to be advocacy and a social service agency, but we just can't stand to see our people being displaced like this. Today, we're asking the Lake Worth City Commissioners to declare a housing emergency, but more than that, we're asking for rent stabilization measures. We shouldn't be seeing people's rent doubled. We shouldn't be finding an 18-month-old and 2 parents sleeping in an empty lot because the neighbor called us about them, and we're the first ones to respond to that case. In addition to the rent stabilization measures, we really need more housing in the city. We need to gently upzone the city so it's not just single family zoning, because there simply is not enough property right now. We need to create the missing middle, solve the missing middle housing, and we need a tenants bill of rights. But most urgently, we need to ensure that rent doesn't increase astronomically and that our people aren't put out on the streets. Thank you.
Next, we have Ernesto Ramirez.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Ernesto Ramirez. My address is 601 North K Street, apartment 3. I'm 17 years old. I live with my parents, and I see them struggling paying the rent. Last 2 months, I believe, they raised up the rent for like 120 something. And not only that, I used to volunteer for the Guatemala Maya Center. I used to, because now I go to school and I love volunteering, but I can't anymore because after school I gotta go and work with my dad to be able to help them. And for me, it's sad to see people, American people, Guatemalan, Mexican, and from every different country, seeing them living on the streets, living under the bridge. We're humans, and we have a right to live, to have a house to live in, to be able to maintain their children's in a safe place. Earlier, in the beginning, you guys were I hear you guys talking about health. how can we talk about health if people that are throwing out of their house can have health, can be health, because they're, how can we talk about that if you're not in a safe place, you're out living, you might not even shower because you don't have anywhere to shower. I hear of some American people saying we have to pay a hotel to be able to shower because we can't pay rent. People, I think we're, as humans, as I got here like 6 years ago, and for me, it's really hard to see my people. My Mayan people going through this stuff. Everyone comes to the U.S. saying we go there for a better future, but there is no better future in the U.S. if what they spend their money, what they spend their check on the rent. We can't keep seeing people like that throwing out of their house. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Dr. Ellen Wayne.
Good evening. I'm Ellen Wayne. I'm CEO of Catholic Charities for the Diocese of Palm Beach. Our business address is 100 West 20th Street, Riviera Beach. It's fortuitous that we're actually speaking tonight because you began your meeting with information related to health, art, and quality of life directly from the National Institute of Health's webpage for housing, which includes affordability as well as safety, directly associated with a wide range of health conditions, including respiratory infections, asthma, lead poisoning, injuries, and mental health. Catholic Charities for the Diocese of Palm Beach annually receives more than 7,000 requests for housing through our homeless housing and outreach program. The struggle for housing that is safe and affordable impacts your employees. It impacts my employees. It impacts the people who we hope to attract to this community. It disproportionately impacts those who are poor and vulnerable, those who are here speaking tonight, and those for whom many reasons aren't able to come forward and be here this evening. We have an opportunity. Your community partners, Catholic Charities included, stand with you and encourage you to be a leader in this county. Recognize this emergency, declare it as such, and let's begin a process to make meaningful change and lasting impact in our communities. They're depending upon it. We're all depending upon it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ray McElroy.
My name is Ray McElroy, address 1808 Southwest 11th Street, Fort Lauderdale. I support the resolution and implore all commissioners to vote for the declaration of a housing crisis. Why, as a Fort Lauderdale resident at our community meeting, the problem expands past the geographical borders of Lake Worth. The problem prevents my sister from living here. And here's my story. My sister commutes daily to the GMC via Tri-Rail from Miami. It's a long journey full of delays. When possible, she sleeps in my house in Fort Lauderdale. We talk about life and we talk about the issues she's working on at work. We go deep into the problems. When asked for advice, I guide her as best as I can to always steer her energy towards implementing long-term solutions that last, solutions that will make lives better. One evening while my sister was over, the conversation landed on the housing crisis once again. Together, we've been studying the issue the last few years, and I implored her to work harder and to organize a movement that will lead to more humane zoning laws and more housing. But that night, she snapped at me. She may or may not have been hungry, but she said, "Ray, I just can't. I can't think about that right now." And I said, "Liddy, you have to. We have to. The pain is too real for too many." But you know what she said back? "I can't think about it because already all day we've been shuffling people in and between motels and homeless housing. I just need to work on the immediate right now. We can't help these people fast enough." Hit me like a rock. Why in the world is my sister and her coworkers barely keeping their head above the water with their workload stemming from homelessness? What in the world is happening to our cities and county? We have broken one of the cardinal rules of basic economics. We have matched with supply and demand via our exclusionary zoning. And now you can hear the results in this room. In America, land of the free, we have created one of the least free housing supplies. We threw the rules of economics out the window and said to ourselves, we can manage housing economy. We can run a planned housing system. Well, guess we all got it wrong. I implore this commission to declare a housing emergency. I implore this commission to stop the bleeding by implementing rent stabilization for the people. And most importantly, I implore this commission and staff to immediately implement gentle upzoning across the city and study it. There's real tools out there. There's real cities doing it. Gainesville was just one example last week.
Sorry, sir, your time is up. I'm sorry.
Be a shield for the people. Thank you.
Next, we have Mariana Blanco.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for listening to us. My name is Mariana Blanco, address 430 North G Street. I am here not to talk about the issues of the people, because you all have heard directly from the people what is happening here in Lake Worth, and that they don't have stable housing. I'm here to talk about the services and the agencies that work around us. We obviously work with a lot of different agencies here in Palm Beach County. And just today we had people from the city of Lake Worth, people from Legal Aid, and a person from Palm Beach County call us and refer families to them because they have nowhere to place their families. We, as my coworkers have mentioned, have never been we've never done housing in the past, really. We provide other social services, but we have had to become a temporary housing solution because there's nowhere to house our people. Sheriffs will bring our people and will tell us it's either we bring them to you or we arrest them for treason because they have a dad with a 7-year-old on the street that's not going to school because he hasn't been able to be enrolled because he has no address to report and he's living in the park. So I am imploring to you all to declare a housing emergency. All the agencies are overwhelmed, and we constantly talk about the great services that the county provides. Well, I'm here to tell you that in the past 2 weeks, we've had to transport 2 different families to different states because we have nowhere else to place them. There needs to be more services for the people, not just more services, but funding for emergency housing, funding for temporary housing, and we need to stabilize rent. It's not enough for us to say as agencies and as a county and as a city that we're doing enough to protect the people, because we are not. Every single day we get countless of families, not just coming to ask us for help with housing, but coming to us with small children because they have nowhere to stay for the night. They don't even have a car most of the times to stay for the night. So I'm here to ask you all to declare an emergency housing crisis and to stabilize the rent.
Thanks. Next, we have, I think it's Donna Torres.
How are you? I'm Diana Torres, 631 North J Street. First, I want to acknowledge the families here that came. I say this more as a wake-up call, not a criticism, but we've been talking about affordable housing for a long time now. And it shouldn't take for these families to go through hardship to be here, for you to acknowledge and recognize the situation that we're in. We need to be more proactive with that. Having said that, I agree. We need the rent stabilization. We need the declaration, but more importantly, we need to house people. We need to figure out a way to put people in housing. We need to get creative. We need to figure out whether it is such a huge problem that I honestly don't even know what to offer up. But I definitely feel that we need to start figuring out ways how we can create density, if it's through ADUs. I heard somebody say tiny homes. Whatever it's going to take, I think it's something that's worth pursuing, and we need short-term solutions. More importantly, hearing everybody state how the rents have been going up $500, $300. Can you put out a call out and tell these communities, hey, we're hurting right now. Can you please cap your rents? Can you please reduce the rent hikes? people decide how they feel about an idea based on the shame that they perceive. And so right now it's time to start publicly calling out people for these exploitive rents. Maybe if we can start doing that, we can stop the hemorrhage, or we can stop the exploitation of these ridiculous rent hikes and then go from there. But we need to start to respond quicker. We need to be more we need to acknowledge what's happening, and we need to be more in touch with the communities, because you cannot expect people to constantly come here to voice their concerns. You should be going to them to hear what their concerns are.
Sorry, ma'am, your time is up.
I'll close with saying that I honestly have faith in every single one of you right here, right now. I really do. And I really do think that the full commission is capable of finding a solution for us. And I'm placing all of my trust in every single one of you. So please declare the housing emergency and help us figure this out. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Erica Etch. Erica?
Oh. Oh, yes.
I'm sorry, can we pause for just a second? The video went out, so let me have someone come in and correct that before we continue.
Father, one moment. We're waiting for the video.
It's all right. It won't be memorable. I don't know if you have any use for an old priest.
Just a moment. Technical.
It's okay.
No, we want to wait for the recording. So we want to record your message. So give us one moment. Thank you.
No entiendo. I'm going to.
We're back.
Okay.
Go. Thank you.
Give us your full name and your address.
My name is Frank O'Loughlin, and my address is, what's the address of the office? Anyway, thank you for having me. The joke used to be that I live on the widest waterway in the world. You've heard that too, right? The Lago in not a lago, is the Lake Worth waterway. It's the Lake Worth Lagoon. And I used to think I could afford to live on the west side of the Lake Worth Lagoon. Now I'm going to have to follow the firemen and the teachers and everybody else who have to cross the bridge to find more affordable housing on the island. Because Lake Worth has become preposterous. And I'll tell you, I'm being a wise guy, but the really astonishing, awful thing for me is when an evicted mother is out there and trying to save her children, and DCF can show up and she can be adjudicated to be an indifferent or an incompetent parent, and it all simply is remediable if we could just have it. Where are the teachers living? I'm going to try to follow the firemen and the teachers and the others, and surely are crossing the bridge for cheaper lodgings, right? Thank you for the. I mean, this is tough stuff. So thank you for staying with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Erica Etch.
Hello, my name is Erica Esch. My address is 1221 North Federal Highway, apartment 7. Good evening, those occupying this meeting present and virtually. For the purposes of keeping a concise message, and not to mention the statewide, national, and global crises, I will try to remind us firstly why we are here unified against the ceaseless social and economic displacement of the increasing stress that is hardly a lifestyle in Lake Worth. We need protection as the housing crisis has already been declared in our city. We need formal awareness of this on part of the individuals with the power to protect those individuals directly. My experience renting an apartment here would have been the most daunting experience without a formal line of credit, which I did not have. And I did not come from a family of wealth, so that was not something within my financial education. And given that is an awareness of mine, I cannot face the awareness that many families, not limited to myself without children, an individual who lives here currently, that I'm facing the kinds of tenuous fear that this comes with myself as an individual. And the responsibilities are ever growing, and the intersections of these identities are clearly of many different matrix, and many different oppressions faced individually will be had without this rent control. We understand that that's something, I'm going entirely off this, and there's a point to be made. We know that organization within a group of people works. We can mobilize to find your positions, what we can utilize in this movement towards securing a human basic right. We don't need to ask your permission to be seen as human beings. We need you to be legislatively activators for the human being sight that we already know we carry. We are going to go home or not to these homes that are up for arms right now. And we know that this is not a matter.
Your time is up.
Let's declare it. Let's not wait. Rent is due.
Thank you. Next is Lee Simmons or Simons. I apologize.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lee Simons. I'm at 121 South Lakeside Drive here in town. Well, Florida, we have another resource to exploit. We have something else of value that people can take from us. They can buy, and this comes in the form of our home. So in my case, I'm standing here for a few people that I know that aren't going to be here tonight. But in our case, the rent increase was $750. And just a little background was that 3 people tentative offers to buy the property, teams of buyers and their selective inspectors and plumbers and all those folks came through the property, the house, our home for the last, say, probably 6 to 9 months. And then I think now finally it's going to get sold on the third time. So what's going to happen, and we made a little call to the landlord to say hi, introduce ourselves, but the dog is not going to be allowed to stay and the rent's going to go up $750. So, just based on this mentality or this lack of, there's somebody living here, just like a person. It's just very cold and it's upsetting. Not really too upsetting exactly. I mean, a little uncertainty is okay, but we all like to know that home is going to be home. And it's not just a resource for, say a billionaire to buy up the place and, jack the rent up. And so luckily we're able to stay in the neighborhood, but I just wanted to let y'all know that it's hard for everybody. And I'm
Sorry, sir, your time is up.
And I speak English. If you don't speak, we also got a note, like a statement that we're supposed to, sign to give up all of our renters' rights. So no, the few that we have, we want to hold on to. So if you can't speak, I mean, I can't imagine what it's like if you know.
Sir, I'm sorry, but the clerk has said that your time is up.
Jane Hayes.
Hi, I'm Jane Hayes, 121 South Lakeside Drive. Been a resident here in Lickworth for 3 years now. Love this town, love you people. Shame to see what's going on. So yeah, my rent increased $750. My dog has to go. And he didn't even ask me, you know, if it's an emotional support dog, which she is. So I kind of got upset, made some calls, and I have secured another rental, but the price increase is going to be the same. Still going to be $750 to get in there. I work full time. I'm a florist. I'm a real estate agent. So can you imagine how many calls I'm getting for people what want to find rents because they're having to leave their homes? So where can I put them? I'm in the same category also. I rent also. You know, I would just encourage you all while I'm here to buddy up with as many people as you can and see if you can rent with, you know, someone else who's looking for another place to rent, because that's the only way I can see people surviving short term, at least, get a roommate or something like that. Yeah, it's tough. No one's getting any pay increases either. So how are we actually paying? I'm finding $750 a month. I really don't know. Thanks for letting me share tonight.
Thank you. Next, Faith Halstead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Faith Halstead. My address is 1221 North Federal Highway, apartment 7. I have been a resident of Lake Worth for the majority of my life. I grew up here. Firstly, I want to say that I'm here today on behalf of Common Purpose Initiative, and of course, as well on behalf of my friends and family who reside here. I'm here because I love and care for my community. I've been a mental health worker here in Palm Beach County for going on 3 years now, and I've seen firsthand the impact of inaccessible and unaffordable housing on our people. The degree of stress and strain this issue has placed upon our community has been insurmountable. Without housing security, so many have been living in fear for themselves and their children as to how they might have to keep on living without knowing what comes next. Our people need protection from rental increases of exponential degrees, such as this past year's 40%. They need protection from landlord greed, from Airbnbs taking up the spaces that once housed families. We're subjecting our community to dangerous circumstances when we limit their affordable housing. Many are forced to stay in abusive households or live without necessities in order to maintain a roof over their heads. I can say with certainty that this is taking a great toll on our people's mental and physical health. This is primarily affecting our marginalized communities in which Lake Worth is home to many. These are often also the people most directly serving our community, and we must do better for them. I also see a need to mention that the conditions in our local shelters have been dangerous and unsafe, which are contributing to health issues in those who are already facing health vulnerabilities due to houselessness. Again, we must do better for our people, especially when we are creating an environment that does not provide them with safe and accessible housing. I'm here to demand that a housing crisis is declared in Lake Worth. This community cannot continue to bear the inflictions of high rent and little to no resources. We demand a tenant bill of rights and rent control. We demand solutions now. Thank you.
Forgive me if I may pronounce this wrong. V. Aziello. How did I do? Okay. Thank you.
Everyone,
have a visual aid here.
Name and address, please.
Oh, my name is V and my address used to be 18 South M Street. It is no longer. We will get into that. But I only have 3 minutes.
Sorry.
I just said hello. We've talked a lot about the problem. We all know that rent increases are a problem. One of the things that was brought up multiple times was there's just not enough property. But there is enough property. What I'm going to hold up first to you all and then to everyone else. This is a map demonstrating active Airbnbs. Right now, the number that is displayed here is 793 in Lake Worth. As you can see, it's concentrated mainly east. And so the housing does exist. We see that many of these are owned by not one person who's just renting out a room, not one person who's renting out a mother-in-law, but these are companies who buy up our homes in order to run a business. We talk about the hotels being revamped. That's a huge issue for us. The hotel getting revamped. We are a hotel. Lake Worth is a hotel. Who's going to be using our nice beach fitness facilities? Not me, not these people, tourists. And that's fine if they weren't also taking our homes. Here I will show to you first is where I used to live. It's a B&B now, as you might have imagined by my tone. And here you can see that the largest number of B&Bs are 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. These are the homes that we can afford to rent.
Sorry,
This
ma'am,
is coming for anyone's mansions. We need to instate rental emergency, and then we need to fix the problem.
Next, Hunter Johnson.
Hi, how's everybody doing? Oh, yeah, I live at 521 North J Street with my buddy Duncan and my partner also. And I think it's kind of crazy that the 3 of us need 5 incomes between the 3 of us to afford to live where we do. And I've been here for 9 months now. I've been a resident of Florida my whole life, but I'm also an educator at Florida Atlantic University. I'm a student myself, graduate studies, and it's just very difficult to be able to afford to live and then let alone study and work and spend time with my partner. And it's kind of insane that we're paying $1,800 for less than 1,000 square feet, 2 bedrooms and 1 bath. And, you know, I would love to be a permanent resident of Lake Worth, but the same house that I'm renting, if I wanted to purchase, would be upwards of probably $175,000 in the same neighborhood. So it's a little difficult to be a resident here. And I don't know, I think that's a problem. And I think we should probably address that. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Nathan Galam.
Hello. Hi, my name is Nathan Galang from 3170 Santa Catalina Place. As some of you know, I don't live in Lake Worth, but I'm speaking because I believe the issue of housing is not just isolated to Lake Worth, not just isolated to Green Acres or Boynton or Wellington, but countywide and frankly nationwide. And, you know, I just wanted to paint the situation. So when I was running for office in Green Acres, I used the talking point that in 2020, I remember the cheapest rents being around $800, $900. In 2022, it was around $1,200. That was already a raise. In a recent meeting, I spoke and I looked at the rents again, and it was around $1,500 for the cheapest rents. But the average price of monthly rent was around $2,000, some going as high as $3,000. Now, in that city, we pride ourselves on being working class, but in a situation where 50% of workers make under $35,000 a year, how is the working class exactly supposed to live there? If you make $30,000 a year and you're paying $2,000, you're paying what, like $24,000 a year? That's 80% of your income. They're being priced out. And of course, the people here are describing a similar situation in this city. Now, the state of emergency or the state of housing emergency, it was mentioned that this would allow the city of Lake Worth to think of ideas and solutions to the problem. And I think that's wonderful. I would suggest and recommend rethinking the role local government can play in housing. I don't think it should be left exclusively to the free market because clearly it's not working out. I think that local government has done things like build city halls, build community centers, build local parks and maintain them. None of these things are built for profit, but they're maintained.
Sorry, your time is up.
And it can be done. We should build public housing. Thank you so much.
Next, we have Juanita Ramon. Juanita Ramon. Can you be outside? No, thank you so much. She did mark that she is for the housing crisis declaration, emergency declaration. Next, we have Inanina DeLeon.
Sí, hola, buenas noches. Yo vengo por lo mismo, que también me aumentaron de renta el señor. ¿Sí?
Empieza con tu nombre de nuevo y tu dirección y yo voy a traducir, ¿ok? Yo te pedí que tomes una pausa de tu discurso, ¿ok?
Ok. Hola, buenas noches. Mi dirección es 4821 y mi nombre es Enedina de León. Y igual lo mismo, el señor de la renta le subió mucho. Y yo soy una mamá soltera y tengo un niño especial. Y yo casi no puedo pagar mi renta también porque no tengo mucho trabajo.
This is my phone, so I'll get the address in a second.
Señor, el aire igual no sirve.
So I wanted to say that along with other people that I'm also going through difficulties. The landlord raised the rent for me. I'm having trouble paying the rent. I don't make that much money. I have a child with special needs. I ask him to do some maintenance in the home. He doesn't respond.
Eso es todo. Gracias.
And that's it. Thank you. 4821 32nd Avenue, I believe, Lake Worth. Anina?
Oh, that's Anina.
Enedina.
Yeah.
Gracias.
Thank you. Next, we have Aurora Lopez.
Tu dirección nomás. ¿Cuál es tu dirección?
Es.
Aquí.
No, pero yo voy a ser cortita.
Ahorita voy.
Hola, buenas noches. Mi nombre es Aurora López. Mi dirección es 4811 32nd Drive South, Lake Worth. Estoy acá porque el dueño igual ha subido la renta $500 por mes. Mi deseo es que la ciudad declare una emergencia de vivienda para así controlar el alquiler de las casas. Muchas gracias por escucharme.
Thank you. My name is Aurora Lopez, 4811 32nd Drive, South Lake Worth. I'm here for the same. My landlord raised my rent $500, and I'm here to ask that you declare a housing emergency. Thank you.
Next is Duncan Tierney.
My name is, can you all hear me? Cool. My name is Duncan Tierney and I live at 521 North J Street. I've been coming to like public meetings a lot throughout my life. And I want to say like the amount of people here is beautiful. And when I came here, I thought it was. And then I heard 2.5 hours now of mothers saying that they don't know where their child is going to sleep. And fathers saying that they work all day, providing food for the rest of the community, and they don't know if their child is going to get health care. They don't know if their landlord is going to knock on their door and impose $600. And if you don't like it, move. As if they haven't already moved far enough for a better life for themselves and their children. So I want to say that like a tenant's bill of rights, rent control, fantastic, immediately necessary and good start. But if we lose this to a public-private property or a public-private property partnership, excuse me, or if we lose this out to the same capitalists, the same landlords who are exploiting them, who are exploiting us all over the nation, we've only bandaged it up. We cannot continue having our workers and our mothers and our sons and our daughters out on the streets or hungry or without medicine for the sake of the profit of people who have never stepped foot in Lake Worth. So it's awesome that we're here and it's fantastic. But the fact that we needed this horrific conditions to do so, I don't have words for it. And that's not a position I generally find myself in. So we need to continue to organize past this. Because as soon as Betsy DeVos or whoever else steps foot in Lake Worth, I'll listen to her opinion on property prices in Lake Worth. But until then, companies like Zillow and BlackRock and the rest of them who are buying us out to lease out to vacation homes can deal with what they want in their own homes. Thank you.
Okay, there's a possibility that this person may have spoken, but just in case, Hernan Herrera. Okay. Oh, it's wonderful. Thank you. What else you?
Hello, my name's Anand. I'm not a Lake Worth resident, but I'm just going to read some comments from a petition we've been circulating from people who couldn't be here. So one is Gianna Cook. As a future teacher, I'd love to not have to give so much money to a landlord. I won't even get paid that much. Ben Silva, make rent affordable. Dave Lee, the necessary institutional measures must be taken for this problem. Aaron Ringler, the housing market is horrific and unbearable. No normal middle-class person can afford it. All of the locals are being pushed out. The amount of homeless people, children, and animals because of it is heartbreaking. It is truly inhumane. You must do something. This is a crisis. People are suffering. There's nowhere to live. My lease is almost up, and I'm worried what my landlord is going to say. Rent is increasing, but pay is not. This is madness. Please help us before it is too late. Evelyn Walker, it is a ripoff. There needs to be more legislation to stop this. Ann Farrer, I am in support of the housing emergency. I lived previously in a 2-bedroom apartment in Lake Worth Beach until the property was sold. 1 month ago, the new owner showed up to my apartment, sold my apartment off to prospective tenants. I was never given a chance to stay in my apartment. I would like to know why I was the only one forced to move out. I may be Hispanic, but I have rights too. At this time, I'm searching for a 2-bedroom to move into my because I cannot afford to pay $1,575 for rent and $350 for a storage unit to keep my property safe. However, I am unable to move because rent has increased so much, which leaves me a single mom struggling to find affordable housing. Gerard, I am on disability and get subsidized housing, so it doesn't affect me, but it affects people in my community who are working, and the rising rents are a big strain on them. Juliana literally moved out of Palm Beach County for this exact reason. I'm currently on disability and only receive enough pay to pay my rent. And it's looking like my rent is going up. When I renew my lease by $200, I receive only $1,238 for the month. And I'm currently paying $1,100 for a 450 square foot studio, which is now going up $1,300. Please help.
Sorry, your time is up.
Right. So just please declare a housing emergency. And whatever you decide to do, you'll have to prioritize something that is going to prevent tenants from getting displaced, not just in the short term, but in the future. Thank you.
One second. While we wait for the video to come back, thank you for your hard work on this. And I'm just curious, do you know how many signatures you're up to at this?
At this point, we have 224.
Thank you.
Would this be a good time to take a break? Commissioner?
Very short.
The city manager's checking the number of cards we have left.
Okay,
7 cards left.
7?
Yes.
Okay, it's up to you. If you want to, just let me know if you want to take a break, whenever you want to.
Well, I think, are we waiting? Are the city gonna fix the video?
Is the video okay?
Not yet.
It is still down.
Okay. So this is probably a natural break.
Right. All right, I'm gonna
Quick run to the bathroom while we pick them.
That was my thought. Thank you.
Taking a break now. We're taking a break, Madam Mayor.
Great, thank you very much. Everybody needs to stretch their legs.
Yeah.
The mics are still hot.
Okay. Yeah.
That's that's what I want. He knew he did. Yeah. That's like It's like. What else? What do you have?
We have the mayor back. Would we like to restart?
I'd love to.
It is 8:45, Madam Mayor, and we are reconvened.
All right, let's go. I understand there's 7 more comment cards on this, and then we'll have a vote on this, and then we'll go to the next item.
Oh, I do have some in my office as well, Madam Mayor.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Okay, and we will resume. Next is Daniel Morgan. A resident interpreter.
Yes.
Oh, thank you, Daniel. Thank you.
You're welcome, man. Is this thing on? Do I have to check?
Yes, hit the thing.
Okay, it's on now. Thank you to the commissioners. Thank you, Mayor, too, for this opportunity to speak. My name is Daniel Morgan. I live at 331 South J Street, apartment 4. And I've been living in Lakeport Beach since I think about almost 6 years now. And, when I first got here, I had the privilege of working at the Guatemala Maya Center and getting exposed to the beautiful community that we have here. And in my years in social service, I've been helping people connect with resources and programs that go a long way towards enriching their lives and the stability of their homes. But we've come to a point where people are asking about these increases in rent, and they have no idea how they're going to make it next month. And for somebody who gets paid to help people and connect them with resources, right, and answers, I'm finding myself with no answers, with nowhere to point them to, and it's very difficult when you have to tell somebody, who has children, that you don't know how to help them. You don't know what they're gonna do either. And so and I've been thinking about this a lot, and what I think the answer really is that there is something that can be done, and it can be done by the city. And we can declare a housing emergency and take a step towards protecting the residents of Lake Worth Beach. And I think we should do that tonight. I think we should put a vote for referendum for housing stabilization. I think it's very important. We should not wait until people are living out in the streets. So please recall back during COVID when hesitation cost lives, doubting people's stability, doubting whether or not people were as vulnerable as they said they were. Let's learn those lessons and apply that to now. This housing crisis, declare housing emergency tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jennifer Shirley. And state your address, Ms. Shirley.
My name is Jennifer Shirley, and I was living in a van in Lake Worth. Thanks to the Guatemalan Center, I am now staying in the motel, and also thankful for them. I'm actually leaving the state. And this is unfortunate and shouldn't even have to be. I come from an organization from HUD-VASH. I'm a military veteran. And HUD-VASH pays your deposit, even if it's two months deposit, security deposit, plus your rent. And last home I had them pay for 5 years, but my roof went down with the weather. So here you would think that I would be able to jump right back. Well, because of the prices, they go by FMR, fair market rate only. So all the houses that we looked at, we had 2 realtors, 2 social workers. My oldest daughter is 23. I have 6 kids. I'm a single mother. 2 of my kids have autism, and we're all 8 of us in a van. And it shouldn't even be that way. We've looked at house. We went to house, to house, to house. The ones that are under the FMR do not pass inspection, which means they do not have cover on the light sockets. They do not have window paints. So the ones that we did find were all way over, all the way from May till now. We have searched. I've timed out my HUD-VASH program. I have nowhere to go and have to go back to Texas. Now, it shouldn't be that way. If people are not putting, and it's only over a lot of these houses, a couple of $100 even. But what about the people who are stuck here? Y'all pride about getting people off the street and taking care of homelessness, but yet you're full of homeless people and a bunch of houses that are overpriced. I shouldn't be having to sit back to another state. I have organizations that will pay my rent, pay my deposit. Your houses are too high because the landlords and the corporations want to make it skyrocket for themselves. They don't want to make it available for even people who supported this country, who fought for this country, who went to war.
Your time is up.
I'm here, even though I'm leaving, for humanity, for everybody. And I hope I make a difference.
Okay, next, I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce it because I may not be able to read it well. Jahara Vargas. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Max Maldonado.
Hello, Commissioners. My address is 682 Santa Fe Road, West Palm Beach. But I've currently been spending my time between here and Brooklyn, New York, where I currently live as well. And I just want to say it is truly incredible for me to see that the average rent in Lake Worth has been keeping in step with the average rent costs in Brooklyn. If you have lived or even read about the ugly state of rent costs in NYC, it should make you shudder that this is happening here in the city of Lake Worth. I can speak from personal experience looking for apartments in New York City. I have seen lines wrapping around the block to just take a look at a space the size of a shoebox. This is a site that I fear will come to Lake Worth if this issue contributes to if the issue is contributing to the insane rental prices continue. Even prior to rent rising to these levels in Lake Worth, we have seen a steady climb for years without anyone addressing the issue. Where I live in central Brooklyn, the average rent for studio is around $2,400 a month. Average rent in Lake Worth has reached over $2,100 a month for a studio. In a community where the average person makes an average of $42,500, according to the information that I acquired from Data Commons. If this is the case, a person attempting to rent an apartment in Lake Worth for a simple studio is going to be spending upwards of $24,000 a year. According to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, severe rent burden is defined as paying more than 50% of one's income on rent. Having lived in Brooklyn for the last year, I've seen the incredible burden that young people and families face in looking for housing that is actually affordable. Never in my life would I have thought that I would see what is happening in New York City, happening in my home state, much less my hometown. Implementation and expansion of rent control and rent stabilization laws are desperately needed here, not to mention affordable housing that is actually affordable. Please, 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 so many of these families in Lake Worth are facing the mounting pressures of rent hikes and pushing them out of their homes. And I hope to come back and live in this town one day so that I can build a life and a future here. But at this current juncture in time, I see no potential for that decision. If you value your citizens and their livelihood, this is the only start. This is only the start of what needs to be done. Thank you.
Juan Gonzalez. Kara Jennings.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you to the organizers who got us all here tonight. I really appreciate their dedication to this human rights issue. So I just want to make some suggestions. Obviously, you're going to declare a housing majority emergency, and I hope all of you vote yes for that. I hope after that, you'll direct staff to bring you back whatever you need. Is it an ordinance? Is it a referendum? What is the policy you need to start rent control? I would direct your city manager to meet with some of the brain trusts you've had here tonight to figure that out. You can tonight stop Airbnbs. You can direct staff tonight to enforce your law that you have on the books. Stop dragging your feet on that issue. It's an embarrassment. You saw that map. You're hearing the testimony. Direct staff to enforce the law and end the Airbnb crisis. Tonight, please also ask staff to bring back to you on your next agenda an ordinance that revokes the law that made sleeping in public a criminal arrestable offense. That law is still on the books in Lake Worth, and it could be rescinded by you very quickly. I also hope you'll write a memo to the CRA and ask them to end the practice of giving public money to for-profit luxury developers. Tonight at their meeting, they approved a budget that just in this year alone has over $2 million in our public money for luxury developments. It's not just the Gulf Stream. It's the Aurora, 100K. It's Deco Green, 100K. Village Inhabit, 100K. This is our public money. And the percentage of their budget that goes to affordable housing, they said they have $100,000 for affordable housing.
Sorry, your time is up.
I just have one more thing. I hope you'll also remove the CRA from the shuffleboard courts and offer that property to the Guatemalan Mayan Center at $1 per year lease. Thank you.
And I believe this is the last card. I can't read the last name. It's Maria. Is it Sabin? Possibly. Thank you for your patience.
Buenas noches, señoras presentes. Mi nombre es María Sabán. Mi dirección es actual es de la 4910 de la 32 Drive South Lakewood. Bueno, yo soy una madre soltera de 5 hijos. Hace 11 años deportaron al papá de mis hijos. Yo vivo sola con 5 hijos. Y ahora pues el señor de la renta me aumentó, estaba pagando $1,400 y me aumentó 350 y me dijo que si no pagara yo los 1,850, me dio un mes para que yo me mudara. Y entonces pasó un mes y no me mudé ese mes. Me aumentó 250 más, le pagué para que me esperara los 4 días más. Y me mudé, entonces ahorita llevo 3 meses, saqué una trailer de 1 cuarto y con mis 2 niños pequeños y ahí estoy viviendo ahora. Y la dirección es la 4037 David Road, lote 11. Allí vivo ahora. Gracias.
Gracias. Good evening, everybody. My name is Maria, and I am here also to speak on this housing issue. I am a single mother of 5 children. My husband was deported 11 years ago, and so now I am faced to live with my 5 children alone. I lived in a rent where my rent was $1,400, and they increased it to $300. They gave me a month. I'm gonna remove my mask. I'm sorry. They gave me a month. The landlord gave me a month to pay the $300, and I could not find housing in a month. So I asked him to let me stay 4 more days, and he charged me $250 for those 4 days. So now I live in a 1-bedroom trailer with my 5 children and my 2 little ones, and she provided that address. So I would like to ask you guys to please listen to what's happening.
That's what 4037
Tu dirección ahorita es la 4.
Davis Road.
46.
This is Palm Springs. Is that?
That's her new address that she had to move to.
Thank you. That concludes the cards in the chambers. Madam Clerk, you have some comment cards?
I do.
Okay.
Just really quickly, thank you, Daniel and Mariana, for helping us translate. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, my first comment is from Zaid Shamsi Basha at 503 North K Street. From my experience as a Lake Worth resident and attorney who has represented countless Lake Worth residents in landlord-tenant matters, we must acknowledge that there is a housing crisis. In my experience, Chapter 83 of the Florida statutes does not protect a good tenant from a bad landlord. Our local governments must do more than the state legislature has done to provide a basic level of fairness to people renting in this economy. Serious reforms such as a tenant's bill of rights and rent control are needed, and this is the first step. Matthew Brennan, 602 18th Avenue North. This is a pressing issue for people across Lake Worth. The American dream of owning a home, or sadly even being able to afford rent and save for a future home, needs to be addressed. Private equity and hedge fund groups are buying up houses across the country in order to jack up rent prices and gouge for profit. 1 in 7 homes since the pandemic has been bought in America by private equity, hedge fund, or holding company groups with the sole purpose of profits in mind. Please help us address this issue for our neighbors. Please declare a housing emergency and take the necessary steps to protect our neighbors, community, and future. Thank you. Sue Welch, 1331 North Palmway is for this item. Sienna M at 429 North D Street. While I have been lucky enough to rent from an understanding friend, the astronomical rent prices have still affected my corner of Lake Worth in many heartbreaking ways. One next door neighbor who is wheelchair bound and living in a tiny, crummy apartment is freaking out right now because her landlord just raised her rent above her fixed income. In addition to her situation, excessive rent increases have driven out another set of beloved neighbors for over a decade from across the street. The landlord then had the gall to ask how come more money they thought he could extract from the next renters. Now, instead of a two-person household, it has become a 12-plus household of multiple families who have to pull together money to be able to afford a two-bedroom apartment. Even though these new neighbors are hardworking and respectful, the sheer amount of extra people has led to increased noise and congestion. Buying a home has become more and more untenable with the current inflated price of homes and mortgage rates. If my landlord decided to raise the rent, I too would have to leave this city that I have lived in and loved for the last 14 years. Please do something to slow the rate of rising rents and keep our community healthy and intact. Katrina, apologize for the last name, Stouthar at 6394 Pinestead Drive, number 1724. Housing is a human right. Stop taking advantage of the poor, of the downtrodden, of the desperation to have a place to sleep. Give people shelter. Don't capitalize on their hope. Nick Hawley, 429 North D Street. The price gouging and rent during the current speculative rent estate frenzy is already causing a wave of evictions, which several rent studies and news reports have shown. Less commented on is the social effect of this on a city whose renters are being made several hundred to $1,000 poorer every month. What this does to physical and mental health, how this causes overcrowding, people being unable to leave abusive situations, increased economic desperation, etc. Unfortunately, for many of our realtors and speculators, the poor and homeless are not going to simply vanish from that view of the beach as landlords jack up their rents. They will only become increasing poverty and its ambient effects on the city. Fortunately for renters, Florida Statute 501.160 states that during a state of emergency, it is unlawful to rent, sell, lease, offer to rent, sell, or lease essential commodities, dwelling units, or self-storage facilities at an unconscionable price. The city shouldn't just declare the obvious, which is frankly many months too late for many current and former residents, but quickly act to take the steps necessary to enact some type of percentage cap on the increase of rent. Alexander Cole, 161 North M Street. I firmly believe it is within the city's best interest to declare a state of emergency to address the many levels of crisis facing normal, hardworking, regular people who make up our streets and call themselves our neighbors. Lake Worth Beach, once considered affordable, has quickly left. Throughout COVID, there has been unprecedented levels of investment from outside investors. And similar to most towns in Florida, 1, rent is now unaffordable to those who wish to work and live here. 2, housing costs are skyrocketing and unattainable for many people who wish to work and live here. Declaring a state of emergency in regards to housing market makes clear that the city will not stand idly by and will begin to address the matter most important to every single individual who calls Lake Worth Beach home. The roof over their head that they stare at before closing their eyes for a night of rest. I implore the commission to vote yes on declaring a state of emergency so the people, city, and elected individuals are given the tools to address the common sense reforms needed to ensure that those who call Lake Worth Beach home are not ousted by inflated market forces or outside investors. This, and finally enforcing the existing law on short-term rentals so 500 plus single family housing units are reintroduced into the rental market for regular families are small but significant actions that can mean a world of good for those who are invested fiscally and emotionally in our community. Cleveland Roundtree, 11208 South Federal Highway. I recently moved to Lake Worth thinking it would be cheaper north, but during my search, most places were $1,400 for a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, which I couldn't afford. It's getting hard to work and live in Florida, being single. It's getting to the point you have to have a roommate. Alicia Mann, 411 South Lakeside Drive, apartment 2. I am writing in favor of declaring a housing emergency in the city of Lake Worth Beach. I urge the city commissioners to take this position to preserve the diversity of our city. The current rent increases are unconscionable. They bear no relation to the increase in landlords' expenses. While the city seeks to revive the vitality and economic well-being of our city, i.e. the Gulf Stream project, we should be mindful of the effect on people who live and work in the city. With increased rent, people who work in the city will no longer be able to live here. I don't want us to lose the great diversity we enjoy in our city. Don't allow landlords to turn people out on the street, people who are working hard and just trying to get by, and fill their units only with people who have lots of money to spare. That is all the comments I have.
Great, thank you very much, Ms. Ellis. We're ready to vote. I just want to say, put one note in here. The rent, obviously, I mean, there's no question there's an issue, but we have brought, I believe, consensus to the staff and to the city attorney to do an ordinance asking for on-site available, when a repair is needed. And I'm not putting anybody on the spot, but I'd like to just remind staff that that's something I believe we have consensus on. I'd like to see that ordinance coming forward. We have not decided on the time, how many hours it would take to get a person on property, but as much as the rental is exploiting people in obviously certain circumstances, the lack of services and the lack of responsiveness to the tenant's needs and repairs is, I think, as exploitive. So that's just something, that's my 2 cents. So do we have a motion and we have a second? Do I have a vote on this resolution?
Mayor, we have some lights on up here.
Oh, okay, show me some lights.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate everyone being here. And this is something that obviously isn't super close to my heart, being personally affected by this. I have a plan. Before I propose that and before I highlight some things, I just want to point out that, I've been called many things in my career as a community activist. And one of those things that I proudly take on is I'm often called a radical because I believe in radical ideas like, people should have a right to clean water. They should have a right to food. And now, more important than ever, they should have a fundamental right to a roof over their head. And so if that level of compassion and stressing out personally on these issues, if that makes me a radical, then so be it. I recognize that it is a radical concept in today's world, and knowing where our laws are in place, where our Constitution stands, it does not protect people like us. And so knowing that we do need a radical change. And that's really a big reason why I ran, is because at the local level, it's no coincidence that I focused on land use law when I went to law school. I mean, it's where the rubber meets the road. It's where a lot of our issues, especially environmental, housing, these are the issues that we identify as social justice priority issues. Those are resolved largely by land use law, especially in a state like Florida, where our state just does not care about us. Tallahassee is not going to do what needs to be done to help protect renters and our community. But the good news is, as a municipal government, there are still some things that I believe we can do to bring about those protections. I definitely will move to declare the state of emergency. I think I just want to point out, and I want to be completely honest with everyone who's in this room right now, that is honestly just stemming the bleeding. It's not nearly anything to resolve any issue, but it will potentially give us time. And specifically, declaring the emergency is fine, but I think the writing's on a wall. We've talked about this on pre-agenda meetings multiple times, and I think we should be ready and prepared to move with the referendum. And I am personally, if we voted on that today, I'm fully committed to going for a referendum. I will not sit here and listen that elections are expensive. Sure, they are, but to me, that's a worthy investment for protection of over half of the residents of our city. It's a small investment. I mean, we're so willing to give away millions of dollars for parking spots. I think 50, 100,000, whatever it costs for an election for human beings is a more than reasonable investment to pursue. And with that, I do want to highlight, some of the comments that were made. I heard about the ordinances that criminalize our houseless community. That's something I have. Probably can't talk too much about it, but that is something I've worked on, or we've started with our city attorney. So Glenn, I know you'll be here tomorrow. I'll be in your office tomorrow. We'll follow up on that. There are some complications. That is something, if I could, we would undo those ordinances right now. But there are some potential roadblocks that I think we have to work on through litigation and whatnot to make sure that we can do that as quickly as possible and in a way that the city isn't going to be subjected to liability. And I hear it loud and clear that the amount, what's needed for housing, even with my story being first generation American, son of Central South American immigrants, no generational wealth, I did everything that, corporate capitalist America, whatever you call it, wanted me to do. I went to college, I got the doctorate level education, I did all that stuff. And even then, me and a 2-income household is struggling to cover rent. What else do I need to do? What does a farm worker, what chance does someone who's a migrant worker who's being taken advantage of by these big agriculture interests, they just don't care about people, what chance do they have? It's getting worse. I am very clearly following the housing market and all the data that's coming in. One example, a house that I think maybe could be within my grasp. I mean, this house is literally a box. It's barely 400 square feet. It's not even that. And it's still $280,000. So if you do break down the math on a 2-income household, you have to be making both people $25 to $30 an hour just to be able to cover that mortgage. And that's not factoring in healthcare, childcare, all that stuff. It's home ownership for the son of immigrants is now mythological status. I have a better chance of climbing mountains, which I do sometimes, over obtaining a house in humble Lake Worth, the town that I grew up in. It's getting ridiculous, and I want to hear from our commission full commitment on some of these issues. I hear so many good organizations. We've been working on our budget. Some things are going to be coming up. These are things that I've been thinking of for sure. And I've worked with our city manager and others to help resolve these issues and, have money available, potentially a grant program, things like that. But one thing that is a limitation, obviously, sunshine law and, sharing of ideas. So one thing I really want to propose is not only would love to hear a commitment from my fellow commissioners to pursue a referendum. By the way, we probably missed the deadline for fall. We're looking at spring, right? And so not only to do that, but in the near future, I would love to have a couple of workshops. I know more meetings, but similar to, budget, where we can have a conversation, quite frankly, about what needs to be done. And I would love to set out at least my plan of things that need to happen. Criminalizing of the houseless community needs to end. Anything we can do to, I agree with limiting short-term rentals. It's a big issue. All the comp plan, land use amendments that need to happen. I proposed yesterday at our budget meeting. I would love to have some funding available so that I can bring in outside counsel so that we could look at our comp plan, we can look at our LDRs. And this is exactly the issue that I want to be reflected in our comp plan so that when developers come here, they know that that's what we're going to expect from them. And so if we have a couple of workshops and we can discuss this, I would love to have almost like a schedule, a commitment of between now and that referendum. What are some things that we can do ordinance-wise to roll back, create new ordinances, all these things. These are great ideas that we're sharing. And I would definitely, I know workshops generally, it's just among us. And I don't know how we'll work the mechanics of this, but would love to invite, like the organizations that already do good work on this and how, because they're the boots on the ground and how do we make this better? But we need a concise and intentional plan of actual real change. I'm tired of just talking about it. Sure.
I would just add to that, Ronaldo, I mean, obviously there's an issue here, but, you point out your family and the immigrant status. Let's bear in mind, it's not just that population. There are many people that have been here for generations in the same boat. it's just impossible for people to purchase at this point. So I just want to make it not so, you know, a solo issue, but it's quite a universal problem at this point.
I mean, I agree. I think, you know, largely, probably the largest systemically oppressed population in this country might be the disabled, in my opinion. But, you know, there's a lot of populations that need to be addressed, for sure. It's not just immigrants. It's not just Central Americans. The housing crisis, it knows no bounds. It knows no color. A lot of people are affected by this. And the bottom line is, you know, I really don't care if somebody is not legal status and they didn't vote for me. That doesn't matter. I represent the community. I represent this town. I really don't care who voted for me. We're going to work to resolve it. And I really want this strong commitment because I've had loads of ideas, tenants' rights. I love Mayor's idea about having someone available to fix, you know, water leaks and things like that. Again, something I've personally, you know, personally affected by. The health issues with mold issues. There's just so many things that we need to address. And there's so many things out there that we need to work on. And we can't just work with the limitations of sunshine. We have to do workshops. You have to get together and we really have to sit down and just come up with a concise plan, schedule to do the ordinance changes that we need to do, fund whatever programs we need to do. We need to just figure it out.
Okay, thank you. Are there other lights on that I can't see?
Yeah.
Okay, next.
No. Great. Yes, I just want to say a few things about this. I think none of us up here wants this declaration of a housing emergency to be a symbolic act. It really is giving direction to staff and our city attorney that whenever we bring up something that is related to this issue, we need to act on it quickly. I am very disappointed that I think I started asking us to declare a housing emergency. We had consensus multiple times on pre-agenda meetings, and it took months to get this on an agenda. And I hope by tonight, hearing from the public and hearing from us and having an emergency declared, it sends a signal that this is a priority for this commission in this city. We have to, I don't want to wait 3 more months before we go out for the study. We can't keep pushing this off and pushing this off. An emergency means we need to act now. And we have waited too long, and we do deserve to be scolded by some of the members of the community. And you know what's sad? We're the only ones in Palm Beach County doing anything, but we still deserve to be scolded because we're not doing enough. We're not doing enough. So I hope that we can take this energy and use it to move forward with our study, that we hear from real people that are affected by this in that study, and we quantify the actual social effects of what this is doing to our community, our mental health. We get calls. I'm friends with people who run the eviction response team. They get calls from people on social security on fixed incomes in tears, depressed. They've lived their whole lives thinking that they did everything right, and they are going to be homeless. And they don't know what to do. And they have really dark thoughts. And like, this isn't acceptable. And when we do this study, we need to make sure that we're capturing the human impact of what is going on. And if for some reason you care more about, you know, landlords' profits and the human impact, we should also capture the impact of everybody in the community when that happens. Because you see the downstream effects, you see children having to move out of the state, out of their cities, like changing schools. That's not good for them. That's not good for you. We need to take care of each other, and we need to make sure that everybody has right to their basic human needs being met. And so I really hope that we act with the urgency that this demands. And we're not going to impede on my time tomorrow with the city attorney. I meet with our city manager and our attorneys here on Wednesdays. I will meet 3 to 4. Anything around that you can have. But when we have these meetings, we need to be making sure that we're seeing real movement on these issues. We've seen a lot of places around the state move and forward and then come back and then forward and come back. St. Pete was going to do the referendum and they decided not to. Miami was pursuing it. They decided not to. But we do have 2 places in the state of Florida who have done it. We have Tampa and we have Orlando. So we can do this.
Yeah, and just really quickly, I mean, the proposal, which I love that we're going to declare, it has some really great facts, but this stuff changes every day. And I'll share with you two really scary data points about how urgent this is that just came out within the last week. So-called inflation, if you want to call it that, it's really, I don't believe it's necessarily just inflation. I think it's people taking advantage. But that we all know how much that's raising. And the most scary statistic that I just heard this morning, the data shows that wages have actually decreased further than decades. And on top of that, Florida is the #1 state for wealthy homeowners to move in. Now, take it as you want, how I say that, but yes, we welcome everyone in this community. But the reality is, Florida is by far in the lead of wealthy individuals and families coming in and buying houses. And quite frankly, we haven't done enough to protect inventory and to provide affordable inventory. So it's just been a cluster. It's been a nightmare of people buying up homes for cash. What chance does someone do we have if we have to rely on a mortgage when someone can pay $58,000 to $100,000 over a house and pay in cash? What chance do we have? And just to put that into perspective, the state that has the second most wealthy home buyers is going to be Texas, and they're still about half of what's coming to Florida. So this is an emergency in every sense of the word, and we need to do everything as quickly and effectively as possible.
Commissioner McBoyd, did you have your light on?
I did.
Go ahead.
I don't know quite how to think about it, because I feel fairly close to some of the people who've spoken today. I've gone to various organizations. I've asked to be on a board with some of them. I've gone into people's homes. And what I'm hearing is two realities in Palm Beach County, and especially in someone in Lake Worth. We had a presentation a few weeks ago from Kelly Small something or other about, help me out here.
Tech industry. The BDB, so the
Better Business Development Bureau. And the statistics that we heard and how all these wonderful things were moving, and the average income was 80,000 or 100,000 or whatever. And it all sounded very rosy. And I wish she could have been here listening to what we heard tonight. Because it's very hard emotionally to deal with it. That it's wonderful that there are people coming in and companies coming in and people being able to buy things and people being able to afford to buy a house for $400,000 in Lakewood. 400,000, 500,000. That's not like work. That's ridiculous. And what that is doing is driving other people out and driving rents up. Obviously, I will vote for the housing emergency declaration. All of us will do that. I completely agree with what I've heard from my fellow commissioners, that none of us have any interest in this being in name only, and now we go back to business as usual. There has to be action to follow up. And the expectation, I agree with what Commissioner Stokes said, that we've been asking for a long time for this to be on the agenda. Why does it take months? I don't know how it happened that it took months. It's not that complicated to get this on. Let's move on stuff. Let's not say, well, I'm not sure if we know how to do anything. Find a way. We may say we don't know how to do it, and we probably don't know exactly how to do it. Balance that against somebody who has 4 kids and is on the street tomorrow. Find a way for us to do it. That is what staff is about. We're giving very clear direction. I'd like to expand on that a little bit. The laws on whatever we've got on the books about sleeping in public being illegal, find out how to get that on the next agenda to get that off. We're all I fully understand that there are people in this community who say, oh, you know, it's not great to have all these homeless people and there are problems with it and so on. Yeah, that's fine to say when you have a home. In the meantime, it's legal to sleep. We are not doing anything to make more places for people to sleep for people who need it. We make plenty of it. I can't tell you how angry I am that we have a CRA, Community Redevelopment Association in this city, who is handing out money to luxury developments. That is not what we need. That is not what public funds should go to. I am going to ask at this point, and this is a scary thing, but I am going to ask for approval from my fellow commissioners to direct our attorney to prepare an ordinance for our next regular meeting for us to look at for the Lake Worth City Commission to be the governing board for the CRA of this city. Doesn't mean that we will necessarily do it, but I want us to start that process. If there's approval from my fellow commissioners, that would constitute direction for
I
our
agree.
attorney to do.
Yeah, especially after tonight. I mean, like you said, like you pointed out, money giving out for market rate and above housing is not what we need in this town. It doesn't reflect the will of why we were elected to be up here. Also, after tonight, having a meeting simultaneously, two of the very top issues in this city at the same time, just at the very least is, I'm just trying to find a nice way of putting it. It's incompetent at the very least, because it discourages public participation, like I said, and it's just inappropriate. And so, you know, we do need to keep a close eye, and I think we need to have that conversation 100%.
We had that meeting at the casino because we knew the communication between the city and the CRA historically has been poor. And we had that meeting a year ago, I don't know, a long time ago, and it's clear now there is no communication between the CRA and the city. I'm not making any comments on anything they've done or are going to do, but the communication's not there. We're getting ready to deal with a lot of major issues in the development of our downtown area. And I'm sorry, but I do not have faith that we are able to work as partnerships right now, given what I've seen over the last year. We tried, we had that moment, that therapy session that Commissioner Robinson called it, and I haven't seen any improvement. So I think it's a good idea to look into that and discuss that.
I think that's, I don't know, Madam Mayor, if you wanted to weigh in, but there are 3 votes to give that direction to the city attorney.
I do want to weigh in. And I'm sort of taken aback that something like this is coming up at the end of a meeting out of the blue. You all apparently have an agenda and reasons for doing this. I'm not really sure what they are. And I'm not going to get into it tonight. I think that Commissioner Malega should be here on this conversation. It is a huge, what you're talking about, going from CRA board to the city acting as the CRA number one. The work involved. And I think in terms of communication, that's a two-way street. That's a two-way street. I have been able, and you know, I was very critical of the CRA and the things that they did downtown, which they have now, you know, realized that they made a mistake and they're going in a different direction, and they're working more on affordable housing now than the projects that were in line until now. So I think there's a bit of throwing the baby out with the bathwater going on right here. And if you're not happy with the, you know, apparently there's been some communication between the 3 of you that you're all talking about the same thing.
Mayor, you need to stop at that. There's been no.
Let me finish. I've let everyone finish.
It is that you are making that is on your basis, and you need to be rather careful. And if you don't,
excuse me, let me finish.
No, if you don't understand what the need to change what's happened, You didn't listen to this meeting and you haven't been paying attention the last year.
Oh, I disagree. I disagree.
You're welcome to agree. Three of us are giving clear direction to the city attorney, and that's what we're doing.
So so your proposal is to have the city attorney look into what it would take to go, I'm speaking. It sounds like what you're asking the city attorney to do is to look into what it would take to go from the CRA board, to disband the CRA board and take over as a city commission. Is that what I hear? All right. I mean, if there's consensus to do that, there's consensus to do that. I'm not going to argue with that.
For the record, there has been no outside communication on my part about this issue. I have brought this issue up a year ago as an idea. One of the candidates that was running for election ran on this issue last year. And just the three of us agreeing on an issue do not deserve to be accused of any kind of outside communication. I am very upset by this accusation.
Wholly inappropriate. The word
Stop,
agenda.
please.
It's just no. It's an accusation, and it's an accusation that can lead to liability issues. And
would you let me please finish?
I'm speaking. It's my turn on the dais now.
Well, I was speaking. I was speaking and I was interrupted. It's very, all of a sudden this issue is coming up by all three of you at once. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I just think that it seems like the outcome that
room right now.
I'm sorry, may I speak? May I please speak? This is coming up, out of, yes, Commissioner Stokes, you've talked about it before. We've talked about it before. I just think that instead of having it done, and I'm not going to fight it. If that's what the three of you wanted, I'm not fighting it. I'm just saying that it sounds like it's coming out of a reaction of something that you're not happy about rather than a reasoned approach towards the CRA. It's coming the night that apparently you're all upset about something that's going on at the CRA, went on at the CRA. So all I'm saying is, it sounds quite reactionary rather than proactive. I have no objection if there's consensus to have the city attorney look at that. I think we also need to look at the amount of work that would include, the added work that would include. So I'm not going to object. I obviously couldn't object if there's consensus, but tonight it feels, all I'm saying is tonight it feels extremely reactionary. So have the consensus, the city attorney staff, has the consensus to do that. I'm not opposing that. I just think I prefer to act in a more proactive than a reactive way. There's a lot of anger and tension on the board, on the commission tonight. So we have a motion.
I think Commissioner Diaz was in the process of making a statement as to whether he had had any communication with any other members. I would like to make a similar statement.
Right.
I believe Mr. Diaz should have the floor.
Right. No, that accusation is just, using the word agenda. I hear that often for multiple things, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. We are being proactive. This has been discussed many times. We brought it up even since I've come on, and now I'm hearing since before I've come on. I've seen those meetings as well. But we've talked about it on pre-agenda meetings. I've talked about the tenant bill of rights. I know we're working on rolling back the houseless ordinances, criminalizing houselessness. That's something, there's some roadblocks on there because of current litigation that we might have to work with. But these are things that we are being proactive. And what Commissioner McVoy just proposed is literally, let's start the groundwork to just discuss that. And Commissioner Malega will be back. Hopefully you're feeling better. We're going to have this conversation because it needs to be had. And this whole notion that there's an agenda. Well, if the agenda is to protect renters and from people from losing their homes and a place to live in communities where we grew up in and being still called an outsider, then so be it. But there's no communication between us. We're responding to the 100+ people that were in here, just like we would respond to any other development issue, anything that comes through the city that has a community-backed movement. That's all we're doing. And we're having this conversation, and we're going to hopefully have these workshops and lay out the groundwork of how are we going to resolve this incredibly difficult issue. And like Commissioner Stokes pointed out, nobody else is doing this. And I feel lucky that we're on a commission, that we have so much good insight that I think we can do this. I know you'll come around. I know.
Listen, I fully support what we're talking about with, that's a separate issue.
I
But
know.
I
So
fully
you-
support that.
Suggestion that there's some kind of like agenda.
No, it was about, that was clearly just about the anger of this regarding the Sierra. That's all I'm talking about. I fully support and I'm committed to helping. We have a terrible, terrible crisis in our city for people, for place to live. That's clear. And if anybody thinks that I'm not sensitive to that or not want to be proactive about that, you're sorely mistaken. I was merely talking about that. Absolutely. No, I'm with you all the way on.
I know you're very sympathetic to this issue, and I just want to point out anger is a very valid emotion, especially some of us are tired of living in a moldy apartment. So, you know.
Right, but it's the CRA and the action, I believe the action that the CRA took tonight it was the anger that I was talking about, nothing else.
We are a united commission. The five of us do care about our renters and our residents, and we've been united on this issue this whole time. There's the three of us have been the recipients of a lot of rumors and a lot of bad information and have received a lot of anger from parts of the community. So I think there's a lot of, like you said, maybe anger floating around all over the place. And I don't want that to be what's remembered about this meeting. We all work well together and I've respected you and we've all done a great job and we've moved forward in multiple ways. So I don't think that, I don't want to speak for you. I don't think you meant for it to come out the way you did, that possibly there was something going on between the three of us that isn't. So I just want to say, I trust you. I've seen the work you've done. I've seen your dedication to the city and I am not going to take it. I did react immediately as soon as I heard those words. I have to say that because I did feel like it was an unfair statement, but out of my respect for you, I want to say I'm done with, I'm over it. We're going to move on and we're going to move the city forward together.
If I misspoke, I apologize. Again, it's, this came with the CRA issue is the only thing I was talking about. So do we have a motion? Do we have a second? For this reference? Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Now it is 9:38. Okay, we have 3 or 4 more agenda items. Do we need to do a motion to go past 10 o'clock?
A motion to extend the meeting, in case.
I'm sorry?
Motion to extend past 10.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
You guys are killing me. Okay, so now going back to, let's let folks clear out a little bit, give them a minute. This housing crisis is a crisis. It's horrible. A house across the street from me, not much bigger than my house, just sold for $450,000. It's nuts. So, what I'm frustrated at, I'm sure we all are frustrated, is, what can we do? What limits do we have and how can we explore those? And that's what we just did. All right. Let's give folks a minute. And when people in the aisle, I can't see anything. So, all right, so now we're going to go back to what had been new business A, which is now new business B, which is resolution 56, 2022, regarding the community development block grant for Memorial Park Phase 2. Am I correct, Madam Clerk?
You are correct, Madam Mayor.
All right, that's good news. That's good news. So do we have a staff? Do we have a staff report or anything from the staff?
Hi, Mayor. Good evening. Lauren
Hi,
Bennett.
Lauren. Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Hanging in there.
Pretty simple. This agreement is just between the city and Palm Beach County to execute the CDBG agreement, which would authorize us to go forward with phase 2 of Memorial Park improvement projects.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, Lauren. Great presentation.
Great work on it.
Good work there. Okay. B, which is now C, which is a work order number 9 with the paving lady. Mr. Brown, I believe you are up.
He is almost there.
I see that.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Jamie Brown, Public Works Director.
This is just maintenance. This is multiple locations as we've listed in the summary of the agenda item. In District 2, we kind of spread all around. Milling and resurfacing, concrete work, everything else. District 2. You might be familiar. So yeah, this is obviously roadways that need some serious work. And it's time. So this is kind of going to end our year. That's what we had budgeted.
Should I recuse myself since I live in District 2?
Oh, don't be so conservative, Mr. McFall.
Motion to approve.
All second, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Again,
Thank you.
great presentation, Mr. Brown.
Yeah. You know,
You're
actually,
such a skilled staff.
I do have a quick non-substantive question. Like, so the people who, because it's a lot of streets are affected, it's amazing because riding my bike through that corner of town, it's like a tooth rattling. But how do residents get notified? Do they get like a hanger or anything? Or
Door hangers.
okay.
Yeah, and we require the contractors to do that leading up to when they're doing it, because a lot of work happens, you know, obviously during the daytime, we don't do night work. So they need to know if they're going to be home during the day, what they can access to and what they can. So
It's exciting because I know a lot of people in that corner have been waiting years for this. So
there have been a lot of people in these locations that have been waiting a very long time for this to happen. So it's always good when we can finally get around to taking care of a lot of the stuff.
Cool.
Yep.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, now we are on item D, which was C before, which is the contract to the building division with the CAP Government Inc., GFA International, and Hybrid. These are the three companies. I have one question, Mr. Waters.
Yes, ma'am.
If, as I look at it, it says code, you know, one of the building is, you know, like inspections, things like that, to make sure that they're up to code. It also has code compliance inspectors. And my question is this: are we talking about having these outside contractors as actual code enforcement, code compliance officers who will be doing things like the initial inspections and notice of violation, and then recommendations for how the city goes forward, up to and including reduction of fines?
Not necessarily. What we've used these companies for in the past is to help catch us up on use and occupancy inspections. 3 fiscal years ago and then 2 fiscal years ago, the city authorized, I believe it's around $200,000 for outside consultants to provide co-compliance services. This is a backup for us. In the proposed budget and the current budget, there aren't any funds really to do outside consulting work, but we do have the option. If we have the need, we can come back to you all and ask for reallocation of funds if it's necessary for one or more of these companies to do co-compliance activities.
Okay, and the reason I asked, before I was elected, and I was representing people that were having issues with code. And my experiences with the outside people, that I think they were hired with CDBG funds or something like that a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Yeah. Code compliance is like, to many people, the face of the city. And my experiences with the people that were not committed as employees of the city, that were going to be here for a while, that had sort of a, let me just say, emotional investment, were, I'm going to say it, rather difficult to deal with.
I would agree.
All right, I'm not out of line here, right?
No.
Okay, so that was when I saw that, I'm like, oh, no, let's not do that again, because that hurt a lot of people. You know, it was like stormtroopers at times, and it's to coin a phrase. So if that was my hesitation about this, and if you're telling me that they're not going to be that performing that function, so you'll come back to us if you feel that you need them to do that?
Yes, ma'am. We would have to have some authorization of some money, and then we'd be very specific on what types of activities under co-compliance. If at anything, it might be trying to catch up again on use and occupancy inspections if we ever get beyond compassionate code and we get back to inspecting the interiors of residential properties, which we have not done now for 2.5 years.
Yeah, and at some point, I think we, I hear sometimes that staff has been confused because of the culture of what the commission is looking for changes from the direction that code should take. And I don't know if that has resolved itself. I hope it has, but if it hasn't, we probably need to talk about that at some point in the future, because we are going to be very busy for the next few months. So having said that, and having my question answered, Does anyone want to make a motion? Does anybody have any questions, or do you want a presentation from Mr. Waters?
I don't have any questions. I just want to thank you, Madam Mayor, for raising that issue. I had the same one. I just dealt with somebody who had a code of compliance thing. I happened to meet them as I was coming to City Hall and wound up checking into it. So yes, I appreciate, and I think you're quite correct that it's important for the code officers who deal with the public to have some longevity, hopefully, and some emotional involvement with the positive nature of the city. So I appreciate that concern.
Sure, thank you.
And
Anybody else? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm curious, just kind of quickly, and because I hear this a lot, and I know it was an issue, and I wonder if we're past the worst of it. But how bad is COVID and protocols impacting interior inspections and code enforcement? Can our code people go inside? You know, like.
Well, I don't think of a better word, but the threat, the possibility of being infected is still out there. We still are at a pretty high infection rate in Florida. So we've not reinstituted the interior inspections except under special circumstances. If someone were calling us and said they had a major life safety issue in a property, we would make some exceptions here and there.
You were doing, I believe, this was a couple of years back. I had a client that was when COVID started and they really were doing no interior, but he went around with his camera and showed the code people the improvements and the repairs that he had made, and they had used that. I don't know if that was a common thing, but that happened for at least one of my clients, and it was an effective way because the stuff that they were violated for was easily recognizable as having been completed with permits. So, you know, that might be an alternative way if we do have to go inside.
That's still an option both for building and code compliance.
Okay, great. Thank you. Having said that, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? Do we have any public comment, Ms. Ellis?
We do not, Madam Mayor.
Okay, great. So do we have, do all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. That actually, what?
I said, thank you.
Oh, okay. That concludes our agenda items, and it's only 9:49. Listen, I want to apologize if my words were misconstrued. Okay. It's late. This is way past my current bedtime, and there just was a lot. And you hear the stories of the people coming up, and I sit here and I'm fuming because I'm frustrated because we all want to wave a magic wand and make it better. And our options are so limited in what we can do. And I'm glad that we're taking the step forward to go and see what we can do. So I do think that we are, as you said, Kim, you know, we are united in our concern for that. And I appreciate the fact that we do have the kind of commission, I'm sure Ms. Malega would be with us on this one, to try to make the life of every person living in Lake Worth Beach, every person living in Lake Worth Beach, have a better quality of life. That's the end. So, you know, again, if things got a little heated, I apologize. But go forward. Let's go forward and prosper. Do I have a motion?
I think
Madam Mayor, just one quick attorney report.
Oh, I'm sorry, City Attorney. Yeah.
Okay.
How could I forget you? Ms. Ellis is desperately trying to get my attention.
I'm trying to get it in before 10 o'clock too. So
please.
On repealing two ordinances, one the panhandling ordinance, and we can talk more about that in our meetings tomorrow, but that should be coming up on a soon agenda. And
which one was that? I did not hear you. I'm sorry.
The panhandling ordinance that's been on the books for a while.
that we're getting sued over.
There's a lawsuit over it, and Commissioner Diaz and I have had conversations with it. And right about the same time that lawsuit was happening.
I think we discussed that at a pre-agenda meeting too.
I think I did mention that. And then the conversion therapy ordinance, as you know, from the email I got from Rand Hock, that's also in the works. That's all.
That's simple. Présent. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a great night, everybody. I won't see you again until the next Zoom meeting, but
Rest up, come back in person.
I can't wait. I asked Sylvina today to have, if we could have a building department or somebody put in a grab, as we go down those two little treacherous steps, to have a grab handle, because I'm working, if I can get off the oxygen, that's gonna be hopefully Friday, with the doctor will let me, I'll be a little more mobile. So I probably well imagine how frustrated I am